because we never. Oh,
thanks, David.
Nice job. Okay.
Now I just need you to send me the links to watch the videos.
Oh, yeah, don't worry, I've got them.
Okay.
All right, friends. So here we are. It's our day 3, 2.5 day. So as we said, welcome back. So here are the 3 big things. We always like to work in through big threes of what we want to talk about today. So obviously, one of the things that we are going to constantly call back to is we know that your next steps are to be training your leadership and your teachers. So even as we're going to be going through content, we want you to always be thinking about, okay, so how would we train this, right? So thinking about, okay, this is real, what does your audience, your training audience look like? And thinking about ways that might work well with them. And so one of the things that we're going to keep doing is sort of saying, yeah, we typically use this video or we do this activity for this reason and this reason. So some of this is going to be sharing some of our sort of tried and true methods throughout the PD. But the 3 big things we're going to talk about today is families and communities. And we really, to be completely transparent, this is one that again, we've now put it towards the 3rd day of training. And we're really actually trying to get into the habit or make some shifts to actually put that at the forefront of the training, because that really is something that we're becoming more reflective that actually should be at the center of what we're doing. But we are going to address that and thinking about ways that you can have that at the top of your PDs. And then we're going to talk a little bit more about the first 3 weeks, kind of do a little workshopping. And actually, hopefully at the end of this, you'll have at least a frame or a inventory, let's say, of experiences or lessons that you can start drawing from and start building off of for your teachers to do it. Because for sure, like we said in the last training, this is sort of the part that gets teachers probably the most anxious of, they come to PD at the end of August and they're like, let's get into like what we're going to do day 1. And I do not blame them at all. And then we're going to do a big chunk around building blocks, walking you kind of through that. Because as we had a conversation with Marissa and team earlier, I think last week, and we were saying how when it first came to Boston, we did a whole week institute and did full day every month PD around it. So the fact that we've it's sort of a bridge now to a half day or like a small portion of a half day of the last day of training feels like also a little bit of a shift. It's just probably more than anything a taster of it, but it definitely needs more than that. And then obviously we're going to have reflection and feedback. That's been really helpful to us going forward in our planning our PD, and certainly hopefully for you all as well. So we're going to go ahead and get going with the family and communities piece. And we really like to think of it as the you, me, and us, really the cornerstone of, our 4-year-olds, and I'm sure for you as well, this whole interconnection, the partnership between families and schools is real. It probably even even more elevated in the remote world, right? I mean, it's like the wall between school and home completely not there anymore. If nothing else, we've really come to appreciate how that has to be, a connecting door, let's say, between both of us. So we're going to start with a little video here. Do folks, this is actually a video that we use to kick off PD oftentimes. Hopefully this will work from my screen. Rita Pearson, not sure if folks know this speech that she's done, but let's take a look at it.
I have spent my
We can't hear.
We can't hear it.
Abby, you're muted.
my maternal grandparents were educators, and for the past
That better?
I have spent my entire life either at the schoolhouse, on the way to the schoolhouse, or talking about what happens in the schoolhouse. Both my parents were educators. My maternal grandparents were educators. And for the past 40 years, I've done the same thing. And so needless to say, over those years, I've had a chance to look at education reform from a lot of perspectives. Some of those reforms have been good, some of them have been not so good. And we know why kids drop out. We know why kids don't learn. It's either poverty, low attendance, negative peer influences. We know why. But one of the things that we never discuss, or we rarely discuss, is the value and importance of human connection, relationships. James Comer says that no significant learning can occur without a significant relationship. George Washington Carver says all learning is understanding relationships. Everyone in this room has been affected by a teacher or an adult. For years, I have watched people teach. I have looked at the best and I've looked at some of the worst. A colleague said to me one time, they don't pay me to like the kids. They pay me to teach a lesson. The kids should learn it. I should teach it. They should learn it. Case closed. Well, I said to her, you know, kids don't learn from people they don't like. She said, that's just a bunch of hooey. And I said to her, well, your year is going to be long and arduous, dear. Needless to say, it was. Some people think that you can either have it in you to build a relationship or you don't. I think Stephen Covey had the right idea. He said you ought to just throw in a few simple things, like seeking first to understand as opposed to being understood. Simple things like apologizing. You ever thought about that? Tell a kid you're sorry, they're in shock. I taught a lesson once on ratios. I'm not real good with math, but I was working on it. And I got back and looked at that teacher edition. I taught the whole lesson wrong. So I came back to class the next day and I said, look, guys, I need to apologize. I taught the whole lesson wrong. I'm so sorry. They said, that's okay, Miss Pearson. You were so excited. We just let you go. I have had classes that were so low, so academically deficient that I cried. I wondered, how am I going to take this group in 9 months from where they are to where they need to be? And it was difficult. It was awfully hard. How do I raise the self-esteem of a child and his academic achievement at the same time? One year I came up with a bright idea. I told all my students, you were chosen to be in my class because I am the best teacher and you are the best students. They put us all together so we could show everybody else how to do it. One of the students said, really? I said, really? We have to show the other classes how to do it. So when we walk down the hall, people will notice us. So you can't make noise. You just have to strut. And I gave him a saying to say, I am somebody. I was somebody when I came. I'll be a better somebody when I leave. I am powerful and I am strong. I deserve the education that I get here. I have things to do, people to impress, and places to go. And they said, yeah. You say it long enough, it starts to be a part of you. And so I gave a quiz, 20 questions. Student missed 18. I put a +2 on this paper and a big smiley face. He said, Miss Pearson, is this an F? I said, yes. He said, then why'd you put a smiley face? I said, because you on the roll. You got 2 right, you didn't miss them all. I said, and when we review this, won't you do better? He said, yes, ma'am, I can do better. You see, -18 sucks all the life out of you. +2 said, I ain't all bad. For years, I watched my mother take the time at recess to review, go on home visits in the afternoon, buy combs and brushes and peanut butter and crackers to put in her desk drawer for kids that needed to eat, and a washcloth and some soap for the kids who didn't smell so good. See, it's hard to teach kids who stink. And kids can be cruel. And so she kept those things in her desk, and years later, after she retired, I watched some of those same kids come through and say to her, you know, Miss Walker, you made a difference in my life. You made it work for me. You made me feel like I was somebody when I knew at the bottom I wasn't. And I want you to just see what I've become. And when my mama died 2 years ago at 92, there were so many former students at her funeral. It brought tears to my eyes, not because she was gone, but because she left a legacy of relationships that could never disappear. Can we stand to have more relationships? Absolutely. Will you like all your children? Of course not. And you know your toughest kids are never absent. Never. You won't like them all, and the tough ones show up for a reason. It's the connection, it's the relationships. And while you won't like them all, the key is they can never, ever know it. So teachers become great actors and great actresses, and we come to work when we don't feel like it, and we listen to policy that doesn't make sense, and we teach anyway. We teach anyway because that's what we do. Teaching and learning should bring joy. How powerful would our world be if we had kids who were not afraid to take risks, who were not afraid to think, and who had a champion? Every child deserves a champion, an adult who will never give up on them, who understands the power of connection and insists that they become the best that they can possibly be. Is this job tough? You betcha. Oh God, you betcha. But it is not impossible. We can do this. We're educators. We're born to make a difference. Thank you so much.
Powerful stuff. So, like I said, this is a video that, oh, hold on. Ah! 2 computers at once. That we typically use to kick off PD. So let's just have a quick little discussion about why we would use this, or how you might use this, if you might use this, when you all kick off your PD. And what are sort of the big ideas that come out of this?
So, I know that I've seen that video, and she is a great motivator for those that have been lost hope and drained. Very good, Dita. There's a show that's on TV now that one of my friends recommended, and it reminds me of that when she was first talking about the kids I should be able to teach, and the children should be able to learn. I think that's how a lot of us go into this profession. You're going to be this miracle worker, and then you're not. And then we start second guessing ourselves, and we need a reality check, and she's a good reality check, Rita.
Mhm.
I've seen her in person. I saw her in person a couple of times, and she was that awesome.
Mhm.
But she's so real, and I think that teachers would listen to what she says because she's so real and honest,
Mhm.
and she's been there.
Mhm. Yeah, I mean, I think she's obviously a very compelling, a very powerful speaker. And I think that, one of the reasons why, well, and Dave, you can talk to this too, about why this is a really a great way to start off PD is because, I mean, you all are certainly at the beginning of kicking off a pretty impressive initiative, right? And she's someone who's like, yeah, I've seen all these sort of policies come and go, and there's one thing or another. And I don't know about you, even when we're excited about, yep, this is gonna be happening. I mean, I know that when teachers come to us at the very end of the summer and still it's a little sunburnt on their noses, and knowing that, they'd like to get in their classrooms and start unpacking boxes, and they're literally making name tags at the PD, right? Laminating and things like that. What's really important for us too is like you said, is to start to ground them in the idea of, we're doing this for a very big reason, right? And I think that, like, one of the things that we like our PDs to be, it's very much content. We want it to be both inspirational and aspirational, right? So not just thinking about what brought us all into this room, but imagining what we will be like when we leave. I think is a really important grounding piece for PD. Dave, do you have any sort of other reflections of when we've used it as well?
Sorry, just got to unmute myself there. No, well, not specifically, other than to sort of echo what you are really saying there about, I mean, particularly, like you said, your teachers coming to us in PD and they're sitting there, stapling things and cutting out, name tags and whatnot as they're, listening to us, talk things through with them, and, I mean, in some ways, they're already sort of jumping, a few steps down the road by sort of immediately leaping towards, those very sort of nitty gritty technical kinds of bits and pieces. Everything's going to be great if I can just get all my name tags lined up, and if I can just make sure that I've got my plans all organized and I've got everything laminated over here, and leaping right past sort of the fundamental pieces here that are being mentioned in this talk, around the relational side of things, so it's really in some ways for us about sort of taking a deep breath and just kind of stepping back, a minute, and just kind of slowing down and saying, yes, all of that stuff that you're laminating and frantically stapling is important, but it's only going to be as important as the foundational bit that we work so hard to put into place at the outset, right here. So,
and I think another piece that's sort of important for us too, as we said, we're really looking to shift to having families and communities literally more at the forefront and at the core of our trainings. And this, while we've used it before, we on reflection think that this is actually a very good video to start to talk about that, because she talks obviously very much about the importance of relationships and the family relationships that, her own personal family relationships, and how, actually in the first unit, we define family not as the people that live in your house or, that you can trace in a family tree, but that it's a group of people that support you, that care and support for you. So thinking about families as organized around affinity, and certainly our classrooms in the best world become family as well. Let's see if I can advance this a little bit. on. Next. So when she talks about relationships, and when we think about relationships in our classrooms, we're talking about child to child, teacher to child, school to families, administrators to teachers, and also the content piece of all of that in relationship to our goals of the curriculum. And I think everything she said and everything that we're kind of looking at here, you can look at in this same idea. So bringing this back up again as another way to think about that inspirational, aspirational. This is the concrete way that we're gonna both be inspired and also aspire to. Oh, I just love the way that spins. So what we're going to do now, get a smaller group with us, is we're going to talk about how we do start to think, or how we help teacher, or how we reimagine family engagement. So what we're going to do right here, Dave, you want to kick off, because this is your article and you have the kind of like directions here. We're going to do a little breakout room, right? Oh, I think you're on mute, Dave.
Thank you for that. I'm sorry, I'm talking to myself. I just put the PowerPoint in the chat, as we've done in our previous sessions, so that you guys can have access to now this slide. And if you open up that PowerPoint on your own end, it's going to be slide number 6. We're going to go into breakout rooms, as Abby said. You'll be able to access the article just by clicking on the image right there in slide 6. The article should pop up. And each of the 4 breakout rooms that we're going to send you off into is going to be responsible for a particular section of the article. Everybody in every breakout room should read the first page, but then depending on which group you're in, if you look on slide 7, you'll take one of the 4 sort of subsections of the article subsequent to the first page. And what you are really going to be doing is you are going to be in your group sort of pulling out what you feel are the salient points from your subsection that you're going to then come back and teach to or share with the rest of us here. And that's really it. As you can see from the.
We need access. We can't see.
Do you need access to it? I'm so sorry.
Yes, sir.
Right.
No,
Yeah,
that's okay.
No, I'm sorry. Let me just give you access and then we'll go. But are there any questions about the project here?
Mm-mm.
It should be pretty straightforward, I think. And I think that we're going to give this about how many minutes, Abby? 10 minutes, I think. Okay. Oh, I know what you need access to, not the article, the slideshow itself, right?
Yes, sir.
I'm so sorry. I'm
That's okay.
just a little bit behind. Here we go. Now.
So each group is going to have an assignment to read. Is that what I was trying to
Well,
listen to you?
I'm going to split you guys up into 4 groups. And then if you look on slide 7, you will see that each group has a particular subsection in the article to be responsible for. I've just now redone the permissions. So everybody, if you refresh, you should be able to access the slideshow. Slide 6, you click on the image and you'll get the article. Slide 7 will tell you what your subgroup is going to be responsible for. Everyone reads the first page, and then your group takes one of those 4 subparts to
Perfect.
Read, review, synthesize, and teach to the rest of us when we come back in 10 minutes. So I'm going to send everybody away. Just hold on a second. And here we go. All right. See you in a few.
So is it, okay, so is it just us now?
Yeah.
Oh my God.
It's us plus the second Abby Morales down at the bottom of my.
I know,
screen.
no, I got two computers going, so I can see the slide deck.
Yeah, and this is
See this.
this is proving to be nicely sort of haphazard, but you know that's all
Okay,
right.
it's totally fine, it's totally fine.
I can roll
And
with it.
my charger was not where I just think I
No, it's all good.
animals.
Whatever.
Oh my God, these.
I'm trying to review this article myself to make sure that I know what it's all about here quickly. So
Do you want to take over the screen share? I'm so. No,
you
no,
are
no.
doing such a fabulous job. I would not want to interrupt.
And they totally, I should have been like, well, because
You're-
screen sharing was not, also, do you remember that this is recording?
Well, good. Then let's stop talking.
No, we need it. So, okay, so
This is going to be another case where I have to go in and delete things now. So,
yes, you have got to edit. You still need to go edit those other things. Let me go
yeah,
grab
I
the
know.
rest of the deck.
I do.
I think everything is gonna follow, although I really don't know how much.
You forgot your dynamic and your inclusive and what you call it from
I'm
the
trying to deal with computers.
from the dynamic, supportive, and inclusive.
You know
Thing.
what? You can bring it up here
So,
after this section, in this section.
okay.
Okay?
Yeah. Huh.
We'll recall the Death Star. Okay, I'll bring the chair over here. Oh my God, animals. Moving from a desk to a bed, literally a bed, because my charger doesn't come over here. All right, I'm not gonna-
PD from bed. It's like John Lennon and
Okay,
Yoko.
I'm gonna take off this.
What?
And take off this screen, so you're only looking at one. On, please. So-
You have two computers. What? So you can look at the notes while you're.
Yes, because I don't have a printout, and I don't have a plug either. So I'm like on 3% battery on this one.
Why do you not have a power thing?
I didn't at first, and now because it's too far from so I have to be at the corner of Tobes's bed,
This is a very.
which is also being stalked by animals who are just like,
this is
"What
a
are you
very-
doing, Mom?" I
this is
know.
a MacGyver-esque sort of a PD situation.
Okay,
here.
all right. So remember to do the inclusive. Okay, article groups, great. Then we're gonna do the few. Are you in the deck?
I'm in the actual article, but
Okay.
sure.
So you're gonna facilitate, like, what is this that we're, right? Then we're gonna wrap it up with the dynamic, inclusive, exclusive,
Yeah.
what you just said.
Yes.
Yep, and then we're gonna be talking about the few, the some, the many. I changed the little circles. Also, I'm afraid that whatever happened to the computer this morning is gonna happen now.
No. Don't
No,
chase
no,
me.
Nope. So I'm trying to be like, was it something that was like wet under the computer? What happened? All right. So then did you check out my slide? My
You got
number-
Scrabble. You got Scrabble in full effect. I like that. Yeah. It's good.
Paw. Are you
Definitely.
timing? Are you doing timing?
I've got the timer set. Yeah, the timer.
Ooh,
we have-
okay.
We have 6 minutes left, apparently. So
All right. So then you see my 14 that I did for the Make Way for Ducklings?
hold on a second here. Oh, yeah. That's a good representation. I'm assuming that's what Mississippi looks like. Is that what that weird
That is.
blob is? Down there? Okay.
You know what I wanted to do, which maybe I'll do it for another time. You could spin Massachusetts on its side, make Mississippi.
No, not really. So I mean, sort of, yeah. Well,
You could probably transform it.
Massachusetts looks so much cooler.
No, but I know, but don't you think you could just go?
Almost.
Okay. So.
You know, Mississippi looks sort of almost like a silhouette of Bart Simpson.
Or it looks like the New Hampshire mountain.
the old man in the mountain.
Mhm.
You know, he's not there. Like he crumbled and just fell down.
I think his nose.
Yeah, he just
So
fell
then,
onto the highway or something.
okay, so 15 is the building blocks teacher's guide walk, right? And then there's your prompts on 16.
Yeah, that's right. Thank you for making them look nice. It's good. Yes.
Oh, look at that.
Yeah, I mean, I was frantically trying to.
There's
sneak
two?
it in.
Are there two, or I thought you were gonna do three on each one?
I didn't get around to it, but I can do that. I can do that now. Yeah, so I will. Hold on. Let me do that. Sure. I also desperately tried not to get your key out of order as well. So
I am not even kidding you.
we know how much fun that can be.
You know what? Instead of calling them like, so I know you were trying to be like, does it go with A or B? We can do it like this. I can make a different color.
That's fine.
So
Let me throw a third. Let me throw a third one in first on each of
I'm
these.
just gonna
slides.
get, all right.
And then we can color code them. Blah blah blah. Hang on just a moment. Let me just pick a another thing.
This is like those eye exams. Is it A or is it B? You're like, I don't know.
Choose whatever you want to choose. Hold on a second.
Oops, sorry. Isn't that also unbelievable that that is the way we were trained in building blocks? A
There
whole,
was some great building blocks training back in the day with what's her name, the prep school woman,
the three M's,
Meg. Yeah,
Meg, Margaret, and
Meg Gailey, I think it was.
Meg Gailey was one, but then there was a nice Meg. There was the tall one who was kind of mean.
Yeah, who was the third one though? That wasn't Meg, but I can't remember her name.
Mary?
Mary, that's what it was.
Mary.
Mary Mazzata, yeah.
Oh, she was the one was she the one that was nice or not nice?
She was okay.
There was one who was really sweet.
All right, there's a third piece for that one. Let me do the same down here now.
Why don't you just do the same one?
Well, no, people will twig onto that. We don't want
I don't know.
to. Yeah. Let me see what would be good.
These are hard.
Yeah, they are kind of. That one would be too obvious.
Don't worry, man. It's not going to be that.
I don't want to overthink things. Oh, hold on. How much time? I got to give people, give them one more minute, just a second.
Oh, this is good because then I can work on the deck while presenting it.
Yeah, we really are just like building this airplane as we're doing.
Also, Magina keeps texting me. I'm like, Magina, stop. I can't deal with you right now.
Yeah.
I don't know. They're going to repair some trumpets, honey. Just.
My God, when is that supposed to go to the printer? Like tomorrow or something? Or what?
Friday. I have until tomorrow to get going, to be
I
done.
mean, it's fun to do everything at the last minute, like this PD included.
Leave me alone. I'm going to be fine.
It's also so exhausting, but you know.
Well, dude, can you also imagine if we were doing this and we didn't know the curriculum this well?
Yeah, that would be really disconcerting. All right, there. Now we've got 3 choices. Okay. Whoa, you're making things look big and scary. All right, one more minute. Hold on a second. Let me
Making them look amazing, man.
close the breakout rooms. You're making them look jazzy and fresh. Hey, are you going to the PD thing on Friday with Brooke? You should be there because
Oh, really?
we have to, I mean, do PD, I guess. I don't know.
I'll see. I don't have it on my thing.
Put it on your calendar. It's after the staff meeting, 1 o'clock to it's like 3 hours. All right, people are coming back, so let's pull it together.
Okay. So I should share again the screen or yes?
Yeah, sure. Why don't you? All right. Everyone is whirling back into the room with us here.
Okay.
And by everyone, I mean just Joyce. There's somebody else too. All right. Very good. Vonda's back. Awesome. Okay. Hello, everybody. So, are we all back? Yeah, I think we might be. Okay, great. Nice to see everybody. I hope that was a sufficient amount of time. It's always a little bit hard to gauge, what's the right amount of time to read through some stuff, but hopefully that was, if not enough, very close to being enough time to get through the various parts of the article. So let's just kind of take this apart. Broadly speaking here, right, we have in the article sort of four sort of key strategies for kind of things to be keeping in mind around moving from, as it says at the beginning, moving from this idea of involvement to the idea of engagement. Maybe before we sort of jump into the four sections, maybe let's just make sure that we're all kind of on the same page with that idea of involvement versus engagement. Would somebody be able to just kind of sum that up for us, or sort of describe what the difference is in terms of those two things? What is involvement versus what is engagement, according to this article right here?
Well, to me, involvement is, can you mute, because we're echoing. Involvement is just being able to state that you're present, pretty much. But if you're engaged, then you have like a hands-on approach. A hands-on approach to a situation. Say, for instance, an example would be parent teacher teacher association.
Okay.
I can be involved because of the fact that I pay my dues. But if I'm going to be engaged, I may be the president, I may take on the role as the vice president, I may take on a role as the treasurer.
Okay.
So,
okay. Yeah. No, that's great. Thank you. I think that sums it up quite nicely. As you said, sort of that hands-on piece, showing up, or actually, being actively participating in what it is that's going on, or what it is that's happening. So that's a good starting point. And then let's actually go through these four sections here. In group one, you were taking the first piece of things, I believe, on this bit about inviting families in. So what can you tell us about that aspect?
Well, we said that, I mean, it's a wonderful idea, but Robin Brand and I both, we're on the same page with it. Would depend on your school. Oftentimes kids are dropped off in car line, and the monitoring teachers walk with them to breakfast or to the classroom or whatever, and then that's that. You can always invite parents to come during the school day, to come eat lunch with their child, or come for a part of the day, or be a guest reader, or things like that. But I do love the idea of parents coming to the door with their child, and then the children come in, and the parent goes to a library center or block center and plays for a few minutes. So
no, I appreciate your point about there being, you're absolutely correct, a sort of a range of opportunities, I guess, depending on sort of the structures of a given school, as to whether parents are free to just kind of come right down to the classroom or not. And certainly, like you said, things might need to happen in a slightly more sort of a formal kind of a way. Parents might need to sort of sign up or make some appointments to come in and read a story on a given day, as opposed to just feeling free to drop in the classroom. So you're right, it's important to be cognizant of that, and to think about the particular space that you are operating in, or that teachers are going to be operating in. All right, so thank you for that. Did anybody else from group one have anything they wanted to add to what your colleague just shared with us?
Hi, I'm not in group one, I'm in group two. But
Okay.
just to add on to what Lydia said, now with people having much more comfort with videotaping themselves, if a parent could videotape themselves reading a book, since we have parents who work
Oh.
that could come, then maybe that's another example of something that would give them a feeling of participation, even if they couldn't get off work.
Okay, no, I like that. That's great, and it's interesting actually. I think that you're from group two, and you're sort of giving us an additional thought here, because I mean, there's a little bit of overlap, I think, in some ways between this first piece here about inviting families in, and the second piece in group two about frequent opportunities for communication in some ways. I think, and so that's a nice kind of a segue to this next piece about finding those frequent opportunities for communication, and as you said, parent videotaping him or herself, reading a book and sharing that with the classroom is certainly both a way of bringing the family into the classroom, and getting at, I think, some of those ideas of communicating back and forth. Parents communicating with the school, the classroom, the children, the teacher, and vice versa. So maybe group two, you guys could continue to unpack this for the rest of us a little bit. What did the article have to say about the communication piece?
So I was chosen to speak for our group. One of the things that was mentioned is we were surprised, and that we noticed the teacher did not fuss at the child for throwing those animals, and she took that as a learning experience, immediately. So we noticed that. The other thing we noticed is that trying to think. I know that Dr. Grace had mentioned the communications with emails. Yesterday, my teacher sent a picture of my son playing with his group of friends and how they build a blocks. And so that communication, those pictures, those tangible things that you can share with the parents can open those conversations outside of school. So the pictures are good. I think the other thing that was mentioned was talking when you have those frequent conversations, even if it's with a conference, then a teacher can offer easy, concrete examples to parents, such as if they're working on letters, or if they're struggling with letters or shapes or whatever, that the children they can use that time to tell them, we don't need a worksheet. You can just do this while you're riding around in your car. Look for these signs. Notice the different signs on the grocery store and the colors. And so having those frequent opportunities to communicate is important.
Yeah, and I also really appreciate what the piece about not fussing at them about like the throwing the blocks, because again, when we were talking about how that wall between home and school is a lot more fluid, a little softer than it used to be with us all being in the remote. I mean, one of the things that we noticed when kids came back to in person was the whole idea of like, oh, wait, I actually, when I'm home on my Zoom classroom, I do put my feet up on the chair. I do actually lay down, I wear my pajamas, and all teachers too. But, this idea of like, right, because we've all sort of customized ourselves to home school as not being these two separate places. And so when we see kids behaving as if they were at home, and it's like, well, right, well, isn't this, again, when you're like a 4-year-old or a 3-year-old who may not have been at school yet, the line is definitely blurred a lot more. And I really appreciate the teacher stance of, let me actually watch and see what happens first, rather than to kind of like rush in and correct them, right? Dave went missing there for a second, but so group 3, the cultural piece of aspect, ensuring cultural sensitivity. Do you guys want to talk a little bit about that? That's probably really interesting.
Can everyone hear me?
Yep, go for it.
Yes, Michael.
Okay, under cultural sensitivity, I think we all pointed out or highlighted a couple of things. Adrian stated that making sure that we hone in on the language and the cultural differences when trying to reach and make connections with parents. Sandra stated that, also made the point that we have to make a concerted effort to learn about the child's upbringing. That's key when working with students. And then just overall, the meaningful activities, the family interactions and involvement, it'll help bridge the gap between home and school connections.
Absolutely. And I think that whole idea too, even of family, like I said, the first unit is on family, but the variety of configurations of how children experience or think about family is very wide and different and rich, right? So it's not necessarily mother, father, sister, brother in our world now, or as it probably has ever been. But I think that idea that you want to connect to what is the experience of that child, right? Because if the first unit that you're talking about with kids is family, and we define family as that, mother, father, sister, brother. Well, for the friends who are like, well, I live with my grandmother and my 3 cousins, you've immediately kind of put up that wall between the experience they're going to have at school and the experience, their daily lived experience. Absolutely.
I think somebody in our group made the statement that, at the beginning of the school year, they do, what was it?
The home visits.
All about me.
Yeah.
Was it you, Oki? And I think that gives us, I used to do that as well in the classroom.
Mm-hmm.
And that gives you an opportunity to kind of peek into the child's background so that who's providing for this child by the pictures that they bring and they talk about in the conversations that they have about, their mom and dad at home, or their grandmother, that keeps them, or the aunt or uncle that they live with the dog, Sally, that they take care of every day. So.
Yeah.
Now, finding some way to gather that sort of information is absolutely valuable. Yes, absolutely. Whether it's the all about me kind of piece, or as Abby was mentioning, the home visit opportunities. Certainly something that not across the board up here in Boston in the district, but certainly a number of schools here in the district. Have the home visiting opportunities at the beginning of the school year, which can be a very valuable way of beginning to establish some relationships and learn about the family.
Oh,
yeah,
sorry.
Home visits are excellent. Amy
Is that some? Absolutely. I mean, is that something, I know that when we talked before, that there's a whole configuration of the different 4-year-old classrooms, but I think I remember hearing that Head Start, like you'll have some Head Start classrooms, and I think that is part of their model. If there's a practice that you could either support or encourage across all of your classrooms, whether it's in a public school setting or the Head Start or community classrooms, I'd have to say personally, I used to do home visits even when I was teaching in the public schools, the public setting. And I I'm sure all of you who've ever done home visits will say you probably get so much information in a half an hour, 20-minute, half an hour home visit than you do in like, 3 or 4 hours with the kid in the classroom. I mean, part of it is also like you're presenting yourself to the family as, again, I'm not the person behind the desk. I'm really coming in. There's something incredibly powerful about coming into someone's space, and they're the host. Teachers having even shifting to that I'm a guest in your home rather than you're coming into my classroom, really changes the way teachers feel about families and the children that come through that door. Michael, you were going to say something more to that?
I was just going to add that I think I've been a Head Start teacher for a couple of years, and I think that was one of the biggest ways that I became connected with my parents, especially with the students. They actually saw, Mr. Mosley coming into their home, like, he really came to my house. I think it opened up another avenue that I didn't have with not only the parents, but with the children. I think the next day was like, you can catch them over there in the block area. Mr. Mosley came to my house yesterday. Like, man, this man, he really loved me.
Well, talk about sort of data gathering. I mean, for me, the thing that I found that was a very huge shift for me was being in the position of listener and watcher, right? Like I think of the first 3 weeks of school, I feel like I usually will lose my voice because I talk the whole time, just like I do in PD. But in a home visit situation, you're really in the role of observer and listener. And, like I said, you're hearing the interaction between the child and the parent, between the kids and the other kids in the home. And sort of, it makes everything make so much more sense to that. Okay, that's why they're talking to their friends that way. That's why they're talking to me or that's how they're listening to me or not necessarily listening to me. Or now I know how to say something in a way that's going to connect to them. Right. That to me was incredibly valuable. It gave me so much information to, again, going back to the idea of relationships, what a child's relationship is to materials, to space, their understanding of that. I remember I had this little guy, I think that for all of us, there's always there's gray hair that represents children. There's definitely a patch right here that I call Sage Fedora, because he was a kid that was like a whirlwind in my classroom. He could not cross the room without breaking 4 or 5 things along the way, just walking, and I was like, this child. And when I went to go do a home visit, suddenly it made so much more sense. He was one of 7 boys under the age of 8. Okay. He didn't have a bed. They just, wherever you fell down, that's where you slept, and it was that house looked exactly like the classroom after 3 seconds of Sage Fedora. Everything was broken. Everything was secondhand, everything was put in the mouth. And it just sort of was like, now I understand how all of this, and it made me have such a sense of, actually, it also made me have such a sense of empathy for the family as well. Like, okay, this is why you're 20 minutes late to parent conferences. Or this is why when I say, hey, can you bring in 100, Q-tips for 100 day of school, you come in here with 3 pieces of tissue. And it just, for me, shifted me immeasurably. So if that is a practice that you could, like I said, support in this project, I would say that it would be a very big investment. So now we're going to roll over to group 4.
Yeah, and we've already actually sort of bled into group 4, actually, because that's part of what group 4 was looking at, was the home visit piece of things.
Oh, okay, good. Sorry. Go ahead.
But no, it's okay. Group 4 though, you've got some other bits probably that you can add in addition to the home visit piece, to fill in for the rest of us here.
Well, yes, for group 4, you guys already talked about the home visit piece. I even remember doing home visits, and my assistant would actually initiate the brigance while I would have discussions with the parent. So that worked out as well. But we also discussed looking at during that home visit, scoping out the businesses and the community partners, and making those community resources partners, and not just places to visit. So instead of having literacy night in the library at the school, let's have literacy library night at the library in the community. So that's what group 4 discussed, making those resources in the community partners in the child's learning, and getting to know those resources through the home visits as well.
Oh, I love that idea. Yes. I mean, I think that, again, one of the reasons why this article is really a help, and again, another good activity for teachers to be doing in PD is exactly for all the things that you all said, is really, kind of tripping that wire in their head about really thinking about all the possibilities and the potential. And then also going back to connecting back to the video with Rita Pearson, when she talks about the importance of relationships and the difference between involvement and engagement. There's also, a quality to relate. It's not just relationships that we want, but a certain quality, right? Dave and I were talking about, like, yeah, I mean, you have a relationship with your dry cleaner, but your dry cleaner relationship is very different than your guidance counselor, right? They both have elements of involvement, presence. But I think some of the defining differences and the qualities that we want is sort of similar to what we want in the curriculum, and how we describe the curriculum as being dynamic, supportive, and inclusive. Right. So that's one of the things that we want teachers to think about, the kinds of relationships that we want to have with families, not just that they're there at our front door or our classroom doors, but is the quality of the relationships that we have with families dynamic? One, where they're participating, it's two-way, communication goes both ways. It might not be rosy the whole way, but that it has a dynamic quality, that it's supportive, again, all the different ways that we can support families, and inclusive. So for sometimes our relationships with the families may not be with a parent, it could be with a grandparent, an aunt, sometimes an older sibling. It could be something like that, and sort of like having the widest and the richest definition of what we mean by family. I'm gonna go back to our slides. Oh, here we go. So one of the things to think about when actually a survey or some research that's been done with family engagement in schools is this idea that, 100% of folks know what it is that their school does for family engagement. We have newsletters, we have curriculum night, we have open house, we have 100% of the people can name. Administrators, teachers, paraprofessionals, kids can tell you, parents can probably tell you what. Some know how you do it. We send out this newsletter, we have a council, we have, liaisons, etc. But very few could tell you why we do all these things. And so if, as you're going forward in this project or working with teachers, is a goal or a thing to think about is how we invert these concentric circles. We want it the other way. We want 100% of everybody, from the lunch monitor to the bus driver to the principal to the teachers, to know 100% why are we doing all this. The how, sure, we need the family liaisons to know how to do this, and school secretary how to do a mail merge and all that stuff. And we don't need that many people to know what, right? So it's like, a teacher may do a newsletter, a Zoom call, all these different things. I don't know if a principal needs, again, thinking about your next level of folks, do they need to know 100% what every single classroom is doing? Maybe not so much. I think for me, if you use this graphic to help them think about it, and actually this might be a good way for them to think about it. Let's list all the things we do. 100% people would know. How many of us know why? So another visual that we use is, so if we want to reimagine parents as partners, I was telling Dave, it's like we used to have this recycling center, and I remember finding one time a bunch of Scrabble tiles, and I did use it in PD. I'm like, all right, can we all rearrange parents into partners? Just give everybody like 20 seconds to see if you can. What are you missing to change parents to partners or rearrange parents to partners?
Missing an R?
That's right. You're missing an R. What's that R for? Relationship.
Yes, that's it.
So once you have an R, that R of relationship at the front of your, right up there in the center and right at the beginning, then you really can reimagine parents as partners. Okay, so this is a little bit of a left turn, but actually I do want us to think about this, and I'm really happy that we started with that article. So one of the things, or a field to think about that kind of gives us a lot of information about how we do engage families is corporations, right? So I always think about Apple computer, like every single one of us probably has a smartphone, if not an actual iPhone in our pocket right now. And they had a very deliberate marketing product launch campaign. And actually this fella, this book, Enchantment, he called it Enchantment, right? Guy Kawasaki, because not only did they want you to buy all these iPods, but they really want, Dave calls it brainwashed, dependent, but they really made the distinction between just a customer and sort of that customer loyalty, and they defined it as enchantment, right? So some of the sort of principles that they were working under to really enchant your clientele in order to make them dependent upon you and have that dynamic supportive inclusive relationship were these. Some folks actually mentioned it when we were talking about family engagement, points of contact. The more contact you have, the higher likelihood that you're going to be enchanted, right? Or moving from involvement to engagement. Knowledge, belief, and presentation of the product, right? So that's that idea of 100, if 100% of us know what it is the product is, why we're doing this, it makes it more enchanting for the client. Valuing the customer, again, the why. Are those families really important? Yep. And if we do value that, higher enchantment. Added bonus. When you go to the Clinique counter and they give you like a mascara with your skincare, for some reason you're like, oh, that's really awesome. Probably cost you 10 cents to do. So thinking about what are some added bonuses that we could do when we're thinking about family engagement. In some of my community programs that I work with, they have not just a curriculum night, but then sort of an hour before or an hour afterwards, they have an ESL class. Or ironically, around this time, they'll have like a tax preparation person. Again, has nothing to necessarily do with like, let me look at your kid's report card. But hey, added bonus, you come in, you do this, and then you can also have sort of this. So, and that would require kind of knowing what your community needs might be, or some of the things that might be appealing to them.
And Marissa's got it there in the chat. The power of food should never be discounted.
Oh yeah, so we were talking about that potluck. If you
Right. We would always have pizza. We would always have pizza and spaghetti nights.
You throw some spaghetti in a pot.
Right.
$10 and like a big old jar of ragu, and suddenly your parent conference attendance is going to go up
Skyrockets,
at
right.
least 30%. Insanely great experiences. That's actually a quote from this book, Enchantment, because it really is. It's like you want to make joy, what Rita Pearson talked about. No teaching and learning can happen unless we're talking about joyful relationships. I mean, imagining insanely great. I mean, I always think that is kindergarten and preschool, insanely great experiences. And then again, finally mastering the messages. One of the reasons why we have 4 guiding principles, 4 instructional practices, is because we want to make it digestible and memorable, right? So remembering 4, 4 and 4, is a lot, not just easier, but it becomes this mantra, mastering the message or the mantra that everybody from the 3-year-old can say, I know what this place is about, all the way to the lunch monitor, all the way to, the school committee member.
Yeah, I mean, this stuff is pretty powerful. I mean, I think it's also part of the reason why, we get stuck scrolling through Facebook for hours on end, and we can't detach ourselves. It's very similar kind of a psychology here to this kind of situation. But these are very important things to be keeping in mind. Absolutely.
And it is kind of interesting thinking about applying the principles of Apple to our family engagement. Talk about innovation, right? But basically moving so if you want to persuade someone to do something, that's rational and cerebral, right? It's good to come in and see your kid's classroom. That's very rational. But to enchant them, to engage them, is mostly emotional and experiential. How does it feel when I walk in this school? Do you flash back to to your own childhood experiences? Or do you feel, hey, how do you feel welcome? And do you see yourself right here do you see yourself, your family, your children here? Which is, again, another reason why when we talk about presentation of product, 90% of what should be on the walls should be of your families and your communities, right? So they can literally see themselves. So now we're going to do a little bit of a shift of okay, now that we've got a great mindset around families, community, we're starting to invert those circles. We're getting a good foundation as to why we're doing all this. Now we're going to get into a little bit of the what. You'll remember this slide from our first PD about we've got 180 days, September to June, or for you, August to May, to get all of this done and all of this happening. This is their only 180 days. When you're a 3 or 4-year-old, this is your only 180 days of being a 3 or 4-year-old. So, and usually we hear an audible sigh of relief from teachers, and we're like, good, let's talk about those first 3 days, right? So this is the first 3 minutes of all right, now I have 20 of these little friends looking at me, and it is 8:30 in the morning. What do I do between 8:30 and 8:35? So we know that you'll probably be spending a good deal of time workshopping that with your teachers in that your initial PD. Definitely give them a huge chunk of that time to do that. We're going to try to hopefully give you a little bit of a running start and a bit of a, I guess, kind of a framework. So when we do the setup for success, we don't actually have any formal lessons. Gasp. We really want teachers to kind of plan it out for themselves, but we're going to kind of mock that out a little bit. So Dave, tell us what we're going to do here.
What we're going to do is we're going to have a whole heck of a lot of fun looking at three texts on slide 12 of our slideshows. And these are 3 potential texts that a teacher might use sort of around the idea of the beginning of school, first, a child's first experience at school, separation, spending some time away from family, that sort of aspect of things. And we're going to split into actually 6 groups. Groups 1 and 2 are going to be taking a look at owl babies, and all you'll need to do is click on the cover of the book, and a YouTube of the text will pop up for you. Groups 1 and 2 will look at owl babies. Groups 3 and 4 will look at Maine Goes to School. And groups 5 and 6 will look at I Love You All Day Long, and I'll actually put those in the slide just so that we don't forget in a minute. And what you're going to do after you have in your groups watched the books, you might be familiar, some of you might be familiar with these titles already. You are going to be planning sort of a week's worth, or as much of a week's worth as we're able to get to, of teaching and learning based on these books. And again, keeping in mind that we're focusing on the first week, say, of school experience for the children. You're going to be sort of thinking about some key things here with each of these books. You're going to be thinking about what is the key vocabulary that you would want to emphasize with the children. You're going to be thinking about what are the key concepts being explored in the text. Thinking about, if possible, what standards the text might be addressing, as well as thinking about what family engagement opportunities there could be. And then finally, thinking about any sort of actual lessons or activities that you might make available for children that would allow them to explore a little bit more deeply some of what's being presented in these texts. Could be small group activities. It could be center time activities, etc. So there's a fair amount there to sort of get your hands into. Are there any questions about any of that before we spread off into our groups? You'll see on slide 13, as part of this, there is a blank weekly plan template here. If you would like to, either individually or in your group, you can click on that blank weekly plan template, and it will pop up. If you want to do that, we put it there for you to do exactly that. One thing to keep in mind, though, is that you don't want to type into the plan that pops up when you click on it in the slideshow, because we'll all end up typing on top of each other. You would want to open up that blank weekly plan, and then at the very top of the screen, you would want to go to File, and you would want to go to Make a Copy. And that will allow you to have your very own copy of that weekly plan in which you can type without worrying about other people and other groups being part of things. So again, open up that weekly plan, go to File menu, and then select Make a Copy. You're free to go, and you could use that to put in any of the notes that you're discussing in your groups about the pieces that I just mentioned. So what, again, I'm going to do here is I'm going to just put text boxes to remind each group, what book they're looking at real quick. And I will also make it a little bit more visible, again, what those parameters are that you're going to be talking about. And then we're gonna go off for about how long, Abby? We're doing this for maybe 15 minutes or thereabouts.
Sure.
Sound
Let's
about,
check in at around that, and then if people need more time, we'll see there.
Okay.
I think that works.
So just one.
Can I say
moment.
something real quick before you break us up into the groups?
Please, yes.
Thank you. So one of the things that Lydia and I are going to be working on for our PowerPoint and our presentation when it comes time to deliver this Mississippi Beginnings is we're going to be using this, exactly what we're going to do. Lydia is already in the process of making up her pretend classroom with this exact template right here. I'm in the process of making my pretend classroom using this exact template. And what we want to show people during our professional development, teachers, administrators, everyone, is that every class is going to look different. Therefore, we're jotting down ideas and how important it is to know your students. Even if we can't do a family visit, we still get a Keen folder. We get some kind of questionnaire that we get from families at the beginning of the year. Teachers usually do. And we'll take that information. How old is the child? Where is the child on our birthdays? You know, do they have an early birthday? And are they fixing to turn 5, or is half of my class coming in as a 3-year-old? Are students coming from families that have educational backgrounds, or do they not? So when you're doing this for Dave and Abby, if you could just kind of put that little mindset on as put that hat on when you were in the classroom that first week, what would you do? And all we're doing is using a book that they're assigning us and planning out. And we're going to be doing in blocks, how we refer back to that book. So whatever you use for this, I want a snapshot of it, because we do have a purpose for this. This is just for the moment. I didn't know we were doing this, but this would help Lydia and I, and during our boot camp, it would help us tremendously.
Awesome.
So thank you.
That's great. Yeah, Marissa, I think one of the things that hopefully, again, that will be a takeaway, hopefully when Dave edits all this out, is that we'll have at the end of this share out a number of different ideas connected to these books. These are 3 we literally picked out of a hat, or ones that that teachers may typically use in the first 3 weeks. But I think part of the muscle memory that you're getting teachers to think about is structuring your teaching and learning around an anchor book, right? So yeah, you want to play with Play-Doh, but how much more powerful and more instructional that is if you can say, oh, this reminds me, can we make of the tree where the owls live? You know, where, you know, are they on the branch? Were they, you know, on the trunk? Where were they on that, you know, on that tree, right? So part of what you're training with the teachers too is, again, that idea of like, how do you make purposeful, intentional instruction?
So I would love to challenge somebody to not use one of your 3 books.
Yeah, take one.
Because
I told
we're
Dave
going to come
that.
across of that, and I'm sure that this is great, because I'm sure you have teachers too, because when you pulled up those 3 books, I wouldn't use those 3 books. I have my own set of 3 books.
Right.
So
I mean,
thank you.
Something you might want to do, again, if you, as a, you know, homework or a pre-work that you might want to do, is have them come in, like when they are going to plan the first 3 weeks, if you do it sort of on the 2nd day or the 3rd day, with a book, 2 or 3 books that they might typically use, so that they can actually fill out their plan. Because again, that's a lot, even though it's, you know, it's 6.5 hours, you gotta fill, right? And so if they really can get that a running start with that, with books that they are actually going to use, it's probably going to be pretty great for them. And also sharing with their colleagues what their colleagues might do. One other quick thing before we do go off into those breakout rooms, and someone put it in the chat, and Marissa, you just mentioned it, is like knowing who is in front of you, the demographics of your kids, how many of them are 3-year-olds, 5-year-olds, how many, and the demographics of those families are going to tremendously impact. Again, if this is totally random, if I were teaching in a community to where, I don't know, the owls were a problem. In Brookline, where I live, they're turkeys. So I might not use a turkey buck because people's ideas or their experience of turkeys is not very positive. So, you know, knowing who's in front of you, knowing, and I think that it is no small thing to say, what are the traumas, the trauma informed? What are the traumas of your families, of your communities that will help you make, this is a perfect example, again, writing in the 3-year-old curriculum. One of the activities that we had was playing house, right? Pretty straightforward. But we have a very huge partner that is the Horizons for Homeless Children. So using even the term house felt threatening or traumatized or could be very sensitive. And so we changed it or adjusted it to be more inclusive and more supportive. So somebody put that in the chat, Kathy, you put it in there about the impact of poverty. So if that is the community that you're imagining of your teachers and your community that you'll be supporting, keeping that in mind, what those experiences might be. Great. So.
All right, let's do this. I'm going to get the room sorted out, and we'll be back in about 15-ish minutes. Okay. All right, good. So
We have,
hold on a second. We've got Mr. or Ms. Jones. Not quite.
Yes, can you put me back in it, please?
Okay, let me try to. Yeah, give me
I was
just a
supposed to be
second here.
two.
Let me try to get.
yeah, play it and share your screen.
I'm sorry.
I was supposed to be group two. When I went to click it, I clicked
Yeah,
it.
give me just a second. Let me try to get you back to room 2. There we go. Okay. So what is that about? Oh, did it work?
Not yet.
All right, I think that's worked. Yeah. So what is this about people being traumatized by owls?
No,
Cities.
I was just trying to say that it's kind of like if
Cities
you
and
were,
neighborhoods.
or those pigs, man, those pigs are
It's
like,
like Alfred Hitchcock's The Birds or something. Yeah.
well, I was just, you
Right.
know, because I was like going, well, what would possibly,
Yeah.
well, it is kind of,
Owl babies. Why would owl babies not be appropriate to use? Yes.
well, it could be, I mean, if
owl
it,
infestation of 2015. Yeah.
well, you know what though,
True.
but what if all right, no, I'm really actually serious. Okay, maybe it's not owls, but maybe it's like a situation where you do have kids that are cared for by not that much older siblings.
Or you have kids who are cared for by owls.
By owls.
Right. I mean, that's, yeah.
Well, I don't know. I mean, again, it's like going, where's mom going? Oh, she's just going out to get like some food. She's
Right.
Yeah, actually.
Yeah, certainly, yes. You could have children left left all by their lonesome.
Well, no, but I'm just saying, it's like going, whatever you end up choosing, you know, it's like there are things where it, like, again, there's a,
There is
well,
always the potential for something.
well,
you know.
one might say if you're using the 7 forms of bias. But
You
like,
could run-
right, so the idea of that, what are the potential
You know,
traumatizing?
it's a tool that will help your head sort of think through these.
Well, do you know what I mean? Maybe
possibilities.
we talk a little bit about that. I mean, I don't know. Do you want to put the 7 forms of bias in there?
I'm not sure that we're going to have enough time to really kind of unpack that sufficiently.
Can you all hear me?
Yep.
Why? What's
You're
up?
back.
I can't hear. I'm gonna have to log off. I can't hear anything. I'm
Okay.
gonna have to log off and log back on.
All right.
Get off and come back on.
When you come back,
I don't
you
know,
can-
Dave. I mean, maybe you should link it in the chat when we do talk about, like, after everybody talks about their thing, because obviously everyone's going to come up with really great ideas. But I do think that that's a helpful tool, because they are going to be talking about text selection.
Yeah. I mean, it's apropos of this, and it's also apropos of the bit about the make way for ducklings as well. I mean, that's part of the
Well,
sub.
Again, if we are saying what we're saying about elevating or making more core the families and communities, that's a way to do it. To ensure, what was the thing on the slide in the article? What's it called? Ensure cultural sensitivity. Here's one way to do it. Do it.
Well, yeah, 100%. Yeah. So, all right, hold on.
So just have it at the ready to link in there. But you know what? Because here's the other thing I think that to talk about. I wasn't totally kidding about the owl. I mean, the owl babies actually did used to. It's like the little yellow, little blue, and the 3-year-olds. I'm like, wait a minute. So the families don't recognize the kid when he comes back because he's been hanging out with his friends. I'm like, does that weird them out? Like, Magina's like, nah, they don't care, or they don't notice. I'm like, really? I'm like, I would have been the kid and been like,
Yeah, well, that's your adult perspective, man. Like if you're a 3-year-old, you're like, oh, that's right.
all right, well, let me go hug this dog, and I'm gonna become a dog.
You're gonna meld with that dog. Yeah. That's
No,
the
but I do
that's the
think that,
biology of it.
yeah, I mean, I don't think we have to go completely through it, but I think that one thing to say about the 7 forms of bias tool is to sort of say, it's not that any book is going to pass all of them, because they don't. None will. But I do think, again, it's not used as necessarily a sorting hat, but it is something to consider of like, and again, even the idea that the bias that is there depends on where you stand in relationship to it.
Yes, where you are situated.
And so, right.
It is a perfectly reasonable thing to be talking about in light of our point here about the relationships with families, and that. Yes, I mean it's
Well,
it makes sense.
I don't know if this is a provocative thing to say. I mean, I think we can say it in terms of Boston, that one of the reasons why it's important is because by and large, our teaching force doesn't look like our student.
Right. We got lots of white people teaching lots of non-white kids, to put it bluntly, right?
And again, if we pick up a book that we don't feel the bias, it's not like it's not that we're not woke.
Doesn't mean there's no bias there.
Right. And then, I mean, I don't know. I think I do really think it is again, if we're talking about picking, like when she was saying, every classroom is going to look different. there still should be some sort of like, again, that cultural sensitivity piece.
Well, I've got it at the ready. I've got it
Okay.
right here from OAAG or OOG or whatever our office is called.
I don't know, is it still called that? That was like when
get-
Colin and Hayden were there,
Yeah.
but I don't, is it still called that? Or is it called EFA?
I don't even know if it even exists anymore. Like, I mean, yeah, I don't know, but that I've got it though. So regardless,
Or if it's been assumed by ODA?
it's hard to keep track. I don't pay any attention to any of that stuff.
Are you on
That's,
timing? Are you timing?
I am timing. We've got about 10 or 11 minutes left here for this.
This other computer is updating, this thing is happening, I'm like, "Wah!"
Well, we've got Miss
Boy, you
Jones.
can have some fun editing this thing, because all this is like.
I mean, I really have to do it. Amy is back. Let me see if I can get Amy and Miss Jones off to some places here. Hold on a second. Put them in room 2.
You all hear me
Alright.
now?
We
Hi.
can hear ya, and we can see
No, I
a
still can't hear
shadowy
you.
figure somewhere over there.
Trying to get you guys into some rooms.
No, well, Amy's the only one left. Here.
Yeah. Oh,
There she goes.
That's better.
Also,
Okay.
I'm gonna say too that I'm telling you, it is better to be at bowling in a room to be doing PD, because I got all kinds of possible like geysers going. Like,
What are you?
look, I like knocked them out with like you know those little chill out pills, but I'm like,
The
I'm looking
knockout
at
drops.
I'm like looking at the dosage being like, okay, this is gonna be, you know, according to their weight and the dosage that I gave them, this should hold me until like 4:02.
That's right. You have to time it.
And then
You have
no,
to measure
you're
it.
gonna be up on their feet. It's like going, so I'm like, so every time I'm like, I need a drink of water, but I'm afraid to move from this spot because I just feel like they're gonna be like, oh, it's time to go outside. And I'm gonna be
Probably
like,
not though. If you knocked them out sufficiently, then you know.
no, I don't know.
You got to check their breathing, check their pulse, make sure that
No,
you
I
know.
mean, their
it's,
little feet are, oh, their
They're
feet are
twitching.
moving like they're having a dream, but I'm also like, man, I hope I gave them okay the same amount. I mean, I'm like, I don't know, I just got threw it at them. Here, eat it.
What is this in the form of? Is this in the form of a some sort of a
Like in a
gummy bear? or
chew,
something?
like a chew or something. Yeah, like a liver snap or something.
Oh, a liver. That sounds delicious. I love a good liver snap. Yeah. Sounds really tasty.
Did you guys do home visits at Lee Academy?
We did. Yeah, we did.
Weren't you guys one of the ones that got the little grant from Harvard?
Yeah, I think that might be right because I mean
Yeah.
a bunch of the folks who founded Lee Academy, right? Like I mean, it was founded only a couple of years before I joined up, but they were from Harvard, from the ed school over there at Harvard. So
It wasn't
even the principal was
Project Zero or something was the name of the.
Well, I'm not sure if that was for the home visit. I mean, I know that we were working. Like, I mean, we had what's his name, Rich Weisbord from Harvard Graduate School of Ed. Like, I mean, he was supporting us with a bunch of stuff. Home visits might have been part of it. Like Read Boston and things. He brought that over to us. And
But didn't you? But the group that I feel like did the home visit training, I thought they were from California, Sacramento.
it was the Sacramento model, is what it was. Yeah.
Well, you know what the thing that I like the most about the or a thing I
Always
liked
go
about
with
it.
a partner. Rule number 1. Yeah, no,
I
I'm serious.
never went with a partner.
That was a big part of it, man. Never go on a home visit. On your own.
Don't worry about eating or like, fast, because I must have eaten, I would always try to try to schedule them between 9:30 and 1:30 or something. I must have eaten so many breakfast, brunch, lunches. Oh my God.
That's one of the nice parts of the home visits. Yes, absolutely.
Eat. And I'm like, no, I can't anymore. I can't eat another grape leaf. Sorry, lady.
But you have to, because otherwise you're going to be rude.
Oh, it's so insulting. But then it's just like, I gotta roll out of here, people.
Yeah.
I gotta roll
I can't-
out of
I
here.
can't-
I gotta schedule it according to like, well, I could probably get a really good samosa here. Ramen
Yeah.
here, and then I'm gonna round it out with some nice like turnovers over here at the end. Some cannoli. No, but I was gonna
Yeah,
say, the thing that I appreciated, or one thing that I did really like about that model was that they said that it's something that your school should continue after the primary grades,
yeah, right. Mhm.
right? Because I mean, honestly, I mean, I remember, well, here's something that's kind of interesting. So Tobes has I told you this, Tobes has a first grade teacher, or his first grade teacher sends him a birthday card every year.
Still to this day.
But he does that for every kid that he's ever had.
That is quite remarkable. Yeah.
He gets one every single year. Let me see if it's over there. But you know what I
That's-
mean? So dude has got a system.
That's amazing and sort of frightening at the same time, right? That's the most recent.
Yes,
Jesus.
September 21. Actually, yes. Says dear Tobin, happy 21st birthday. Well, I guess that you're now old enough to drink more than just milk. Have a nice have a nice apple juice on me. Happy junior year already. Best, the BMT, the big mean teacher.
Yeah, yeah.
Every year he's got one.
That's pretty amazing. Yeah.
But he does this for every single kid that he has. Ever.
That guy's committed. He's dedicated, no doubt.
Well, I remember, like, it's so funny because I'm like,
Also probably got way more spare time on his hands than you know.
are you timing this?
It's on timer right now. We got
No,
40
but I was like going, again, he was, so I was like, Dave, like his name was Dave. I'm like, how do you do this? And he totally, I mean, he's one of those people that has like one of those, I mean, like I have an organized mind, but
He's probably got a spreadsheet, man. Spreadsheet, I'm sure.
No, this back in the day, man, he has like file cabinets with like, and he, like, it's just part of his routine where like the start of every year, right? He probably buys like these in bulk, and then he just like makes the file like September.
By month, I guess. Yeah. Mhm.
These kids, and he's got these ready to go. But I mean, he does write a personalized message for every single kid.
But he's got to be writing hundreds of these every year. I mean,
Yeah, I mean, it's pretty dope.
just the price for the stamps alone is going to.
Even if you think he does that, even if you thought he did that for his first class ever, that's 20 kids times
20,
how many
times
years?
4, times 17 or 20. No, I mean 10 years at least. So
that's pretty
yeah,
impressive.
I mean, he's up into like the thousands now of this.
It's got to have like, and it's not a mail merge. It's
Like
not like
how does one find the time to be this diligent and this thoughtful?
dude. Yes, and
I mean,
Tobes always
sure.
is like, oh, that's right, Mr. Weinstein said. I'm like, and it's so like, look how he wrote it.
What's gonna happen is one day someone's gonna realize they haven't heard from this guy in a while, and someone's gonna
That's
bust
how we're
down
all
the
gonna
door,
know. That's
and he's gonna be
literally how we're
buried. He's
all
gonna be
gonna
buried
know.
under the weight of his filing cabinet full of.
He had
you
those
know,
file cabinets, man. I'd be like, what's in here? Birthday
fallen
card.
over on him and crushed him, and he will
Just his birthday card, his birthday card system. I mean, but isn't this great? This is Tobes had him in first grade.
It's pretty awesome, but I think at the same time,
Talk about aspirational. I'd be like, yeah, you go ahead.
good luck, man. Good luck to you.
But I do like it that he always signs it the BMT.
The big mean teacher. Yeah. Well,
It's great.
that's
I'm telling you, imagine a world of that. Like, I mean, did you used to write your kids before they came to school?
Oh yes. Yeah. Hi, I'm Mr. Dave. Can't
I
wait to
really
meet
like
you.
that. And then, I mean, I used to always, well, that's how I used to.
It's so much fun.
initiate- Well, no, that's how I used to kick off the pattern thing.
Yeah,
I'd
sure.
either be
Makes
like,
sense.
here, when you come to school, like I'd enclose like a little thing, see if you can find all the things. Or
Is
I'd
it-
have them pick it out when I would do like home visits.
Oh, yeah, sure. You bring some fabric swatches and
I'm gonna
say,
be like, do you want to choose one of these two? One of these two
some
or
fabric
three?
samples.
And then I'd be
All right,
like,
hold on. I
warn
gotta
them.
disconnect the rooms here. Give me a second here. Yeah, hold on. Or else I'm gonna forget. All right.
They're just gonna be talking and they're gonna be like, wait.
Yeah.
I mean, in
Hang on a
terms of
minute.
time, dude, I think we're pretty good, right? We're probably
Yeah,
about
we're fine because we're gonna discuss this for about 10 minutes. Then we're gonna talk about make way for ducklings, and then we're gonna get to
No,
the building blocks.
don't forget, we're doing the 7 forms of bias.
It's here. It's ready to go. So yeah. Let me start closing these rooms.
Oh, and we're
But
gonna
yes, I think the
play
timing is
trajectory game.
just fine. Yeah, that's not gonna take too long. What's gonna take a little bit longer will be the scavenger hunt for
Oh
wow,
my
they
God,
do
I
look
want to go
very,
get some water, but look, that one's already looking at me. See her?
this one closest to the screen here is looking very comatose.
Hi. She looks.
Second one,
Doesn't she look
just-
a little like?
I don't know, man.
Oh my God, I'm not doing PD in here again. I can't deal with you two. I gotta
You
get them a
gotta-
babysitter or something.
Just turn around and face the wall.
They're worse than having children, because at least children you can give them chocolate milk or something. These two are completely like.
They'll keep you from getting bored, I guess. At any rate, here we go. Let's see. Are we back? Coming back?
I'm so freaking out that I've got 2 computers going.
So far, you're handling it very well. Yes.
I'm not, because this other
You
one.
probably, you're doing better than I probably would be.
No, this other one is.
Maybe we should just let you do the screen sharing from now on.
Mhm.
All right, hey. We're back. You're back. Everyone's back. So let's close that, bring it here. So how did we do? Hopefully that was enough time for people to, kind of sink their teeth into some of this, but I'm sure that,
Into some owl babies? That sounds awful.
sink your teeth into some delicious owl babies. That's nice, Abby. Yes. That's it's a
feathery.
wonderful image. Absolutely. But let's kind of go through what you guys were able to tease apart in your various groups, and we'll just kind of go through our four bullet points on slide 12 to guide our share out here for the next few minutes. Let's start with group 5. Actually, I'm just going to mix things up. You were thinking I would count on group 1, but we're going to group 5, and let's take a look at I Love You All Day Long, which was a new book to me actually until earlier today. I had never read this myself.
We had never seen that book either.
Okay.
Group 5 had not, but we read it and it's a very sweet little book.
Yeah, just really briefly, actually, and I didn't add this in our bullets in sort of in the guidance maybe, but if you could just give a brief description of the book to the rest of us here. What's it all about? What's happening?
It's about this cute little pig family. And the baby pig gets up, doesn't want to go to school that day because mama won't be with him. So mother tells the baby, all the things that she loves about the baby pig and the times of the day that she loves the baby pig, and when he spills his milk, his crackers are soggy, or when he falls down, trips on his shoelaces, she loves him. So it's reassuring little pig that mama loves him even when they're apart was the whole the basic concept of it.
Okay. All right. Thanks for that. Yeah, that's great. Yes, it does get right to sort of the key concept piece of things. Still loving somebody even if you're away or separated from them. What was some of the vocabulary that stood out for you in that book? Was there any vocabulary that you would have highlighted?
Brand, you got that?
Some of the vocabulary that we pulled out, we saw accidental or heard accidental, remember, apart, and share, and mistake. And I think Robin had some others she pulled out. There was actually several words in this short little book.
Soggy.
Soggy. All right.
Mess.
Spill.
Love was in there a lot.
Okay. All right. So that's a frequent one. Just out of curiosity, what was the context that soggy came up in?
He spilled his juice and his crackers got soggy.
Right. Okay. Gotcha. Yeah. Okay. Very, very cool. So what did you guys think about in terms of any learning experiences or any activities, during this hypothetical first week that the children could experience or engage with in the classroom around this book?
This is Adrian, and I'm in the room with Mary, so we're sitting together, but you just can't see me on camera. But we said in the block center, maybe they could tape some pictures of their family members onto the blocks and use those in the block center. They could act out in the dramatic play, like separation times from their family members. In the writing center, they could, and I say writing quotation marks, but like things they love about their mom. Or their or not their family member. I didn't mean to say mom, but what else? In the art center, draw pictures of their family.
In math, counting the number of people that live in their where they live with them. That's as far as we got on learning centers. Those four.
That's great. You've got a nice range there in terms of sort of areas. In terms of things sort of about the standard piece of things, the standards piece of things right here too. You've got your mathematics, your writing opportunities, right? So you've got a range of different kinds of learning opportunities in terms of sort of content areas, et cetera, right there. And the last piece is really speaking to the family engagement part of this, or sort of connecting with families. And what did you guys think in terms of that piece with this text?
We said that they could bring their family member to school and show them their classroom and their playground and things they did. Maybe the cafeteria where they eat. Just kind of give them a tour of their school.
Okay, that's great. And certainly, that would. Sorry, say that again.
I was just gonna say, I love the idea also of acting out the book, because I feel like there's a really nice little back and forth dialogue. Guess how much, that repetitive, how much I love you. And, again, thinking about other things that you can do that can kind of help support even that. They could be making, I was thinking pig puppets, or some kind of pigs on popsicle sticks kind of thing that they could use to make that they could use to act out.
Yeah. Go ahead.
This is group 6. We have the same book.
Right. I was about to ask you guys if you wanted to add anything to what group 5 was saying. So that's great. Thank you. Go ahead.
Yeah, for the family engagement piece, we talked about maybe doing some pre-work before they get to school, maybe giving these books to the parents, sending them home and let them talk about, the book and separation and being at school versus being at home. So we talked about that for family engagement. Some of the vocabularies we had the same. We had love, apart, soggy, directions, following. I think in some of the centers, we talked about maybe having, if there was a pet in the classroom, because they talked about, I think in the story, he fed a fish or something. So maybe having a class pet talking about responsibilities and things like that.
Okay.
I'm trying to look at my notes. Of course, the standards, we said all the standards, math, writing, social, emotional, social studies, approaches to learning, ELA, so incorporate all the standards. Let's see, we talked about maybe for math, talking about the positional words in the book. Maybe that could be a small group activity. We talked about having other books in the library, and some of the books were mentioned was Love You Forever, Kissing Hands, The Night Before Preschool. Anything that I missed? Anyone y'all want to chime in? I think the art center was, drawing a picture. And also talked about just how to use crayons and things like that. Lydia,
Yeah, like even that could even be like a small group activity about, how to use crayons, because some children may not necessarily how to hold them correctly, but just, how to get the materials, how to put them back. You could also, you're assessing all this time too. So who knows their colors.
I really appreciate that point, because that is a key kind of piece of things, that should be happening during these first 3 weeks of school, is exactly what you're talking about there, which is kind of training children up on how to use some of the materials, right? And so crayons, certainly, holding a crayon, or if it's markers, take the cap off the marker and, stick the cap on the back of the marker so it doesn't roll onto the floor, and all of that sort of stuff. So that's definitely an important piece of this. Yes.
Yeah. And we also said maybe in whole group, because they did the Itsy Bitsy Spider in the story. So we talked about some songs and finger plays to do in whole group.
Well, that's a nice connection. Okay.
Yeah,
Great.
and there was also a mention of the musical instruments marching to the music, and so that would be an activity maybe with whole group or in a music center. And then also what Oki had said about sending maybe the book home prior to the children coming, but also getting the link, that YouTube link, to families so that they could share, listen to and watch the story together and talk about it. Or sometime during that week. It may not be that the night before preschool, but it could be sometime during that week that families could use that same book.
I love that idea too about it's sort of like giving families homework before the kids come in. I think it might be a really, again, and also like as a meaningful, concrete way for families, like what could I do if maybe along with the book you sent home like a postcard or some kind of template similar, so that you could read it to the kids when they go. And so you could be like, oh, look, well, here's a letter from your mom, because like I know a lot of us would say to a child, when they're crying, like, do you want to write them a letter or, draw them a picture? But I mean, how awesome would it be to be like, oh, but look here, right in your cubby, you've got some mail. Guess what it says? Guess how much or in the back of the book, and be like, oh, look what all these are, or something like that, and Dave actually said to me earlier, like, well, what if, again, when we're thinking about sensitivity, what if you don't, maybe a child might not have a family that did that, or just didn't get around to doing that. You as the teacher could write or encourage the teacher to be like, oh, and so that everybody does get a letter from somebody, that lets them know. And again, integrating some of that stuff you learned either from those surveys or those informational sheets or those home visits, you could do something very personalized. I love that you have a baseball on your next to your bed, or that, I love you as much as that teddy bear that's well worn, or something like that. Some kind of like little hook that they would be really a nice way to for a kid to be like, I got mail. It also helps communicate to them that this space is our space together, and not just, again, me, classroom teacher.
All right, let's toss it over to group 4 for just a minute or two here. Talk us through Ming Goes to School, if you could.
Well, I'm going to take the brunt for fault of this because we did not use that book. We used
Okay.
a different book.
Tell us about it. What did you guys do?
I'm not the speaker. Somebody else is speaking because I'm so excited and I'm getting
You're
so
the
loud in the
instigator.
office. I'm the instigator. I am, but this is making me so happy. So I'm going to give it away to Dita. We did use Pete the Cat, and this is not the first week of school. This is the second or third week of school.
Love Pete. Yes.
All right, Dita. Okay, I'm going to pass it to Vonda because I don't know where Dita is. She bailed
I don't
on
know
me.
if we lost her or not, but we
Vonda.
did do
Is she
Pete the
still
Cat.
on the
and-
radar road?
No, she's ensuring that she's on here, but I think she was traveling. I don't know, but we did use Pete the Cat,
I'm
and
here. I'm in the office with them. I'm in the office with other people. I'm here.
okay, you want to go ahead, Miss Dita?
No, go ahead because people are having multiple meetings.
Okay, we did use the book Pete the Cat, and if you're familiar with the book Pete the Cat, there's a whole lot you can pull out of there. In particular, the vocabulary words that we talked about were the color words. I mean, he started off the shoes were white. And then he stepped into some strawberries, the shoes became red. Then he stepped into some blueberries, the shoes became blue. Then he stepped into the mud and the shoes became brown. So we talked about the color words. And then we also, when we discussed what we could do the second or third week of school, as Miss Marissa said, with some center activities. In particular, and help me out with that, Miss Marissa, because I know you put it on the sheet. In particular, in the art center, we did discuss the crayons, being able to see number one, no, let me back up. Being able to see number one, what colors they can identify already. That's one thing that we want to do to see where they stand. And then in the art center, maybe doing an activity using those crayons and again seeing can they identify those particular colors and knowing where we need to go. And then we also talked about the fact that they know how to use glue or not. And we discussed, should we do a glue stick or should we use the bottle of glue? And so as Marissa said, well, Vonda, it's your classroom. So what would you prefer? I said, well, nowadays I would prefer a glue stick. So then we talked about the fact that, again, it's the beginning of the school year. So with the glue stick, we would need to make sure that they understand how to use the glue stick, how many twists it takes to use the glue stick, taking the top off the glue stick and understanding the importance of putting the top back on and why you need to put it back on. Did I miss anything, Miss Marissa? I see you not. Okay, and we also talked about come on, Miss Marissa, because I didn't write it all down. Give me what?
So we talked about using tearing during the art studio, tearing the paper, and then that would be the purpose of the glue stick.
The glue.
Build that fine motor skills. Then Dita had a great idea about we talked about having blueberries and strawberries and those fruits mentioned in dramatic play. There was mention of how the children could in blocks build a strawberry mountain and pretend to step in it, get their shoes all colorful. And
maybe a mud volcano or something with the brown blocks, the wood blocks or whatever. So,
but we did say that most of the small groups during this week would be because it would be the second week, and we would use that time to do an assessment during the small group time for colors or whatever else. So y'all did great. Thank you.
And another thing that I was thinking about too, Miss Marissa, and I think we got separated at around that time is when you're thinking about the standards. In particular, I was thinking about the social emotional because of the fact that regardless of what happened to his shoes, he was still happy. You know, he was okay either way it go. And even at the end, when he stepped into the shoes, they were wet. All the color came off the shoes and they went back to being white. So either way it go, he was okay, you know. So it's a lot to be able to see in that. And Ms. Marissa let make sure that we understood it's one of her favorite books, and she loves to start the school year off with it. So, but we enjoyed it overall. So, and the family engagement part, I think just like the other group share, we can send the YouTube link home, and the parents can actually, you know, enjoy that also with their children. I've heard it many, many times, and even with just watching it then again with them, I think all of us were moving our heads and everything when he started singing that song, you know. So, but that's what we have.
Yeah, it's definitely a classic, and thank you for that. I mean, just it's interesting to me because you're talking about, you know, the fact of his shoes getting dirty and he's still being happy and not minding all of that. You know, it's interesting. It makes me think about, you know, in my experience, it can go a lot of different ways. But, you know, in terms of the family engagement piece, I certainly have had conversations with parents and with families about, you know, children at preschool coming home, maybe being a little bit dirty at the end of the day, you know, from the paint or from the whatever they're playing with through the day. And I mean, that is a real conversation sometimes, you know, about, you know, he's not looking quite as crisp and clean as he was when I dropped him off at the start.
What'd you do?
Right, you know, and so that's, you know, that right there in terms of family engagement, just helping parents understand, you know, some of what the experience is going to be like in school. And, you know,
I think I used to tell my parents that just means they had a great day. You know,
Yeah,
I mean, they were very active. You know, so
it means they were having fun. It means they were learning. Right, there you are. So I definitely appreciate that aspect of things. Before I say anything else, though, I wanted to also just give an opportunity to, well, let's see, you guys, group 3 wouldn't have talked about that because they may have been talking about Maine Goes to School. So we'll get to group 3 in a minute. But Abby, did you want to say anything about what group 4 shared with us about Pete the Cat before we go to group 3?
I'm more of a dog person, but I do love Pete the Cat. I think one of the things I like about Pete the Cat is that there's a series of books, right? So you could actually, I think kids really like the idea of like, oh, here's a familiar character. Oh, here he is again doing something, you know, one of the other books that comes along that lets you stretch that out into, you know, or to be like a familiar anchor throughout the rest of the, you know, the ensuing weeks. If you want to do all 3 weeks, all Pete, that might be a kind of a fun idea. I love the idea of shoes because I do think that who doesn't come to school with a shiny new, you know, new shoes, right? So, you know, kids could do things like trace their shoes, do some drawings of their shoes. You know, again, Marissa, when y'all were talking about using glue sticks and tearing paper, they could be filling in sort of like outlines of shoes that look like their shoes, like those little red pieces of paper on their blue shoes. I think in terms of like, if you wanted to connect that to, you know, I'm a big math, we're going to go talk about math, but thinking about, you know, sort of family engagement, you know, you could have like as an activity, how many, comparing their grown-up shoes to little kid shoes. So how many footsteps does it take you, little kid, to get between your bathroom to your kitchen versus your families, you know, your grown-ups, right? Like 3 big steps versus you. Feels like a really nice connection that, again, that they can kind of make kind of in there. And I love a shoelace. I love it. Anything with a shoelace. I feel like little kids do not learn how to tie shoes anymore. It's all Velcro.
Velcro never goes out of style. Let's go to group 3 real quick though, and hear from you guys about what was it? Ming goes to school. Is that what it was? Yes.
Can everyone hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay. Ming Goes to School. We you know, tried to break it down and answer the questions of, I believe it was the key vocabulary, key concepts, standards to address in family engagement. The standards we pulled from Ming Goes to School was, you know, the social and emotional standard. One, because, you know, of Ming trying to meet and greet and make new friends and introducing herself to new friends and introducing them to her old friends. Approaches to learning, language, which is connected to the vocabulary acquisition. Those specific vocabulary words that we tried to pull out were giggles, squirms, the different types of seasons, autumn, fall, summer, spring, and let's see what else. Oh, the key concepts. Why is school important? What activities that they were participating in school, and the different types of seasons. And I think Tanya is going to speak on the family engagement.
Yes, and we also talked about like family engagement, inviting the families into school, to the school throughout the week, having and letting them play an active role in their child's learning, and also letting them come in and engage in those learning activities so that they'll have an understanding of what is going on at school, and they can also reiterate like activities and things at home. And I remember when I taught, we used to have, and this was kindergarten, but we used to have all kinds of activities throughout the year, reading with math with mom, reading with dad. We would have different activities, like each month seemed like we would have some kind of family engagement activity that the parents could come in and be a part of. And at the end of the year, we did a moving on up celebration where it was a fun event for the parents and the children along with food. But all throughout the school year, there were opportunities for the parents to come in and be involved and play an active involvement with their children's learning. And not just that, but just communicating with those parents, letting them know that, you know, the things that are going on in the classroom, the concerns that you have, the resources in the community and at school that are available for their children. So to get the parents more involved. And I know not with just that, but coaches had created some family enrichment activities that align with the OWL curriculum, where the parents were able to access the YouTube links to be able to have those read alouds at home with their children. Also sharing those amazing words, those concept words with the parents so they can use those vocabulary words at home, sharing literacy and math goals with those parents so that they would know what the teachers are teaching in the classroom, and providing some at-home learning activities, just using simple household materials that you have at home so you don't have to go out and purchase and spend a lot of money, so that the children's learning could continue at home as well as at school.
Beautiful. Thank you for all of that. Yes. That is great. Group 3, thank you. I'm going to just move us on to groups 1 and 2 with OWL babies. And if groups 1 and 2 actually just kind of want to sort of do a combo sort of a share out here, you know, you guys can sort of popcorn out from either group what you were thinking about with OWL babies. And let's just start with a really quick sort of 10 seconds or less summary. What is the story about? Just for any of us who don't actually know what the book is about.
He's trying to jump about me.
Group 1 or 2. Did we lose you?
Okay, so I think I was in group 2, but I was in there by myself, so I can just talk about.
Oh, you should have told me. I'm so sorry. I don't know how that happens.
I kind of kept waiting for somebody to show up, and then I just got busy with the stuff. So yeah, so OWL babies is just about of course a nest of little baby owls in the forest, and their mom has left them. They wake up and they are aware that their mom has left them, and they don't know where she's gone to. And so they just start talking amongst themselves and wondering where their mommy is, and talking about how sad they are that their mommy's gone. And then of course at the end she comes back, and she had gone off hunting to find them some food. So that's pretty much basically what it's about. And one thing I do want to say about this real quick is that I think this is an great book to use to teach social emotional skills. I think it's really, there's so many opportunities there throughout that book, I think. So that was kind of my take on it.
Thank you for that. That's great. That's a nice synopsis. Definitely. That's a real key piece of what's going on in the story, that social emotional piece of things, right? I mean, because the little owls have different responses to the mother being gone, right? I mean, one of them is frightened, but the others are not quite so, sort of upset as he is, right? So there's kind of a range of experiences that they have. And sorry again about having you in your own room. I apologize about that. The other group though that was looking at owl babies, are any of the rest of you out there who had an opportunity to take a look at that? Maybe or maybe not. Maybe we just didn't quite get the breakout room sorted on that piece. And that's okay. We'll just kind of keep on moving, actually, because I think that we need to keep on moving anyways. We've got a lot of stuff going on from the other books that were shared out with us. But let's just keep on going here. And we wanted to really briefly talk about, Abby, help me out here. I'm losing my train of thought.
Yeah. So, well, one thing that we want, so many, hopefully Marissa and team, y'all have got like, wow, look at all the things that we've been generating. That was like, what, 15 minutes of a breakout room? Can you imagine the list that you'll have if you have teachers working on this and sort of like thinking about this? So one, I think I would do this in PD is for all the reasons that we just did. You just hear so many great ideas that you didn't think about. There might be books that you might not have considered or known, like, oh, wow. And that sounds like a great book to use, might work really well with my group. One thing that I would probably work on with teachers too, is that this is a gigantic brainstorm that came out. I would probably be really explicit with teachers about how slow you've got to unwrap all of those things. I was kind of thinking in my head, I totally would do a volcano in the first week, but then I might also be like, I remember, groups for whom capping and uncapping the marker took 3 days to learn how to do. So while I might have, and I always would say this, even like when I was on day one, I would write out almost minute to minute what we would be doing, and then look at it at 12 o'clock and be like, well, we got to the first 5 minutes. So I would be completely flexible and sort of like expecting that you'll plan whatever you plan, you're going to dial down 20 or 30% from what you sort of like put out there, which is kind of good because that just means like, great, now I've got 2 weeks worth of teaching and learning. Right. So I think especially for your new teachers who are just so energetic for like, we are going to do this, and this, and then be like, okay, 9 o'clock. You've walked them from the cafeteria to the classroom.
Right. And I know that, Abby, I'm sorry to interrupt, but I did want to say I was so thankful to hear all of these suggestions because I did write it down. And the one thing that I noticed whenever we came to our group was my mind did not, it took me a minute to process this template. And I actually had, starting with the book, but then I had to jump to small group. Well, what is my purpose for this week? And then my centers fed off of that small group. Well, because so every mind is going to, every teacher is going to be different of their purpose for these first 3 weeks. So I just think that that's a big strong point we want to get out to everyone, that it's okay.
Yeah. And one thing I actually do before we do move on quickly. So the way it is in Boston is we usually have 22 kids and 2 adults in the classroom. Are y'all's classrooms that size or smaller or different ratios?
20 to 2.
Yeah. So that's the other piece too, is that I would say by and large, you want to do as many things in small group rather than whole group, just because, you know, I feel like preschool and kindergarten or just school in the first 3 weeks is definitely, as much as you can do man-to-man defense versus zone, you're gonna need it. So we actually have a couple of things for you all to also that might help you in planning. We're just gonna kind of mention it here, but we'll also be sending kind of a follow-up, I guess, collection or kit of other things that we've used for PD. And one of the things that we want to share with you, because you will be choosing books, is a tool that we use in the department in Boston called the 7 Forms of Bias, which Dave just popped in the chat box. And we use it when we're choosing books for the curriculum. It's sort of, these are 7 forms of possible bias. And one thing to say is that there's not a single book out there that's going to be free of all of them. Every book in the world is going to have one of these at least. And also, I guess, to caution you all to not necessarily think about using this as a kind of a sorting hat, as it were. So, you know, but if you find a book that's like, it's got like at least 5 of the 7, you might want to reconsider not using it, right? And then also related to that is what you see of as bias in any book is going to be dependent on where you stand in relationship to that bias. So I may look at Pete the cat as a dog person and see all the cat biases up in there, but as a cat person, I might not see that at all. So it may be similar to any of the books that we mentioned, you know, what your gender, your socioeconomic background, your education background, your racial or ethnic background, you may see all 7 of those because that hits you in all those. You may see one more prominently than the other. Mostly it's for you to kind of, for you all to consider, here's sort of the potential, I don't want to use, well, I don't think it's too harsh of a term, but potential harming points, again, to your communities and your families. So that's for something to unpack. Probably a whole giant PD on it, but it is a good frame to think about when you think about choosing books. We're gonna actually dip back into our, hold on, let me share my screen again. Again, quick. We were going to talk we talked about this a little bit when in our last PD about, again, making things relevant to you all. One of the ones that's in Unit 6 is Make Way for Ducklings. It's very Massachusetts, it's very Boston. But the big idea is addressing a life cycle, the bodies of water, the bridges the kids are making, the Zakem Bridge, the Bunker Hill Bridge. We were going to do this, but this might be something for you all to do in your PD as well, is what would be the is that Mississippi? All right.
Hopefully you got the right state.
I was going to make it spin and turn into like Mississippi, but sort of an exercise that might be helpful for your teachers too, is like, here's a super Boston book, you know, couldn't be more Boston centric. What bodies of water would you might you be looking at for your kids? What bridges might you be looking at? Community gardens, I think we talked about last time.
Right. As opposed to just completely yanking the book and trying to replace the book entirely, right? You know, so.
Yes. So this is an example of a book that seems super Boston centric, and thinking about ways that it's actually kind of universal or can be a lot more versatile across many contexts. What we're going to actually do right now, and Dave, let's yeah. Okay, quickly. Just looking at the time. So we talked to you all earlier last week about that you're going to be using building blocks. And again, it's a whole other curriculum, and it takes indefinitely. This is going to be a big piece of training that you're going to be doing with your teachers, mostly because math is not the thing that is math or science isn't necessarily the thing that many preschool teachers feel comfortable with. And this is a very different, well, this is a very rigorous way of teaching early math. That may feel a little intimidating for your teachers. So we know now that you will be getting the building blocks teachers guides, or your teachers will be. So what we want to do quickly for you to just start out to do is for you to do kind of a guide block or familiarize yourself with the teacher's guide. Okay, so Dave, you want to explain what they're going to do again in a breakout room?
Let me walk you guys through it. Yeah. You know, we're going to do, we call it a scavenger hunt sometimes here. We're going to go back to our breakout rooms. I will make sure that I do a better job so that I don't have one of you off by your lonesome this time.
Signal if you are.
Yeah, and if I do make that mistake again, please just let me know in the chat so that I can fix it. But what you're going to do is this, as you can see on slide, what slide have you got up here, Abby? You got slide 15 up here, right? So you can see on slide 15, 4 groups. Your group will click into right where it says each of those is a link. You'll click into, and that will bring you to, as it says, week 1, 3, 7, or 11 of the Building Blocks Teacher Guide. Okay, and each week of the Building Blocks Teacher's Guide has you know, the structure of each week is identical. The content, of course, will be different, but the structure in terms of the different components on the various pages for each week are going to be the same. You're going to look to slide 16 for the actual pieces you want to be focusing on in your group's week of the Building Blocks Teacher's Guide. You're going to be looking for certain pieces in each week, and you know, finding some examples of content that goes along and it matches. So you're going to be looking for a section called Teach for Understanding. You're going to pull out one concept that is addressed in the Teach for Understanding section for your week. You're going to be looking at your week's weekly objectives, and you're going to be highlighting what those weekly objectives are. You're going to be looking at one of the whole group activities, taking note of that, one of the hands-on math activities, taking note of that, etc. So again, as Abby said, this is for me an opportunity to familiarize yourselves with how the teacher's guide is structured, laid out, etc. And so use slide 16 as a reference point for the things that you should be trying to zero in on and find in your group's given week. And then we'll just come back out and do a little bit of a share around in you know, slightly more than 10 minutes. We'll give this maybe about 12 minutes or thereabouts to go to it. While I'm getting these breakout rooms sorted, if there are any questions, you can let us know. But other than that, we will try to kick this off.
We left with Kathy.
Uh-oh, do I need to help Kathy?
No, I
Oh.
was in 2 and then you told me I was in 3. So
Oh,
then I decided I better go to 3 because that was the last. thing I
right. You know
saw.
what? Do something crazy. Go to 5.
Well, I don't know if they will let me.
Oh,
But
Dave.
I went to 2 first and now I'm in 3.
All right. We'll see ya.
You're in 3, okay.
You're
But
on
I
the-
have to say, as a disclaimer, I'm not an MDE coach or employee. I am an MDE partner in training off and on throughout whatever they need me to do.
Awesome.
Huh.
So I'm here for information purposes because I have 2 staff members that actually do the training on the people who want to be endorsed and who want to get certificates so they can keep teaching pre-K.
Nice.
Oh, okay.
But we're more of the helper group.
I like that.
Well,
I like being a
That's
helper.
great. It's good to have you with us. I'm glad that you're able to be here, so thank you.
All right, Kathy. So we'll see you in a few minutes. For some reason, yeah.
Am I going, where am I going? Am I going back to,
Yeah, go ahead and go to 3.
I thought this was, okay.
Oh, no, it's you and me.
I'm going to leave and hopefully I won't be going off forever.
Right. I'm not
Okay,
disappearing either. Maybe 2 is where you gotta go.
Now,
Dave, can you put her in?
I'm trying to. Hang on just a moment here.
Dave, it's so powerful.
I see a Kathy in room 2.
that's okay. I'm good. Now I'm back with you. Wait a minute.
You can't get rid of her.
I'm trying to get you to where you should be. Hold on, I'm just having a little technical. All right, then you disappeared from room 2. Now you look like you're in room 3.
Yes, this is a new room. You're right.
Are we room 3, Dave?
No, not according to what I can see here.
I'm with Kelly, and now you told me to join room 4.
Uh-oh.
Yeah, so why don't you just follow that?
Yeah, but go ahead and click it though, because I think it's not letting you out of this one.
Can you accept? Are you able to accept that? Okay.
Okay. Woo! All right, this is the
What?
quick adjustment.
What's going
Listen. Shh, come on, dude. We only got a few more minutes. Just come.
I know we're running
This
out
is
of
when the
time.
dogs are exploding too. It's like, geez, hear this? Do you hear this? That's the
What are
serial
they?
that's in the other room. All right, so here's what we're
That's
gonna do.
hard.
Listen, we don't have time to go through all 3 of these weeks. Listen to me. Calm.
No, we don't.
Okay, so this is what we're going to do.
We're going to go through each of the questions, but each group will take one of the questions.
No, we don't have time. By the time they come back, it's gonna be like what, 3:40?
Yeah, it's going to be like 3:45.
Yeah,
All right,
no. So here's what we're gonna
what
do.
are you gonna do?
1, what was the big concept for all of them? They're all geometry, right?
Number sense, actually.
Is it number sense? Shit.
It is. It is specifically number sense. Yes.
Okay. So
Yes.
one of the things, so we're just gonna summarize, or we're gonna give them the spoiler alert. 1, what were you addressing across? Okay, so we're gonna say it this way. So there are 3 big ideas that building blocks addresses: number sense, geometry, data, and measurement. What was everybody's
Which one?
week?
Yes, fine.
Say it out,
Okay.
number sense. Oh, why? Right, but wait a minute, you had 1, 3, and 7. How can you be doing number sense in all 3? Because what are some things, if we did know this, next time we should do this, we should make a key. So if the whole group was this old man in 1, it's probably this old man in 4, but doing something funky.
In theory, that's the idea, right?
So we're gonna point that out, essentially, okay? We're
Okay.
gonna be like, so they're all number sense. If we had time, if we really were going through all of these, you would see that a whole group activity in 1, it may actually be the very same one, or hands-on may be the very same one, But if you would notice, if you laid these all out, you would see that it gets more complicated in each one.
Yes, that's fine.
Spiral. And then we're also going to be, but you'll also notice that there's kind of gaps between 1, 3, and 7. That means because in between is the other big idea is geometry.
That's right.
So-
You're talking about geometry or measurement or yes. Mhm.
Right. So then, so you can be like, typically similar to where, like the way our multiple reads are, you do number sense for weeks 1, 2, 3, geometry 4, 5, 6. You come back to number sense. Okay.
Yes.
Then,
I could put this out for people if you wanted to. I could, we
well,
probably don't need to.
you know what? Listen, what we'll do is that will be part of our follow-up materials.
All right, that's true. Yeah, we can just send it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, you can show it to them if you want, but basically we're just gonna say that. We're gonna give you
They won't be able to, they won't be able to read it.
for you to do that. Okay. So after we do that whole summary of like one of the reasons why we would do this in PD, again, you could do this in a PLC. Oh my God, my shoulder's killing me. Is exactly to point out that thing for teachers is the spiral, the complication about why you keep it in sequence. So you don't do pattern for 1 week.
Right. It comes back, etc.
So
That's fine.
the reason we want them to understand this whole progression and the idea of trajectories, why? Because we want them to get so well versed or familiar with this idea when they look at children doing shit. Ooh.
Of course.
Oops.
Yeah. Luckily, nobody's here. Don't worry.
You better edit that out, okay?
That's great. Thank you for that. Yes.
So then we're going to be, so for example, here's slide 17. This is a game, and again, we'll send you these materials where we're going to give them sets of children's work.
Right. What
Give
trajectory
them
do they
the
land on?
trajectory on the side and then have them match it. So we can do quickly slide 17.
That's fine. Yes.
Wait, which is the third one that you did you add it? Is the middle one the third? What's the?
I added the one in the middle clearly because it's talking
Okay.
about hexagons and rhombi and trapezoids. Yeah. Right.
All right, let's just do quickly these two.
I see.
Are these opposite?
They are opposite. So the top one goes with the bottom. The top photograph goes with the bottom descriptor, and the bottom photograph goes with the top descriptor. Yes.
So, right. So we'll look at this. All right, you know what? Let me animate this so that then this will appear.
Yeah, you don't need to do that.
My dogs are gonna explode.
No, there's nothing that needs to be animated here. Just
No, because I'm going to say, we're going to say, listen to me, listen to me. My brain is hurting now.
Do it. What's happening? I'm not looking.
No. So you're going to say, what we do is we give them these sheets of children's work. There's 7 sheets. Okay. And then we give them the trajectory.
Trajectories, yes.
Right, so they're gonna fly in from the right. So they're gonna see it as if the teacher, right? And they're gonna be like, all right, so if you were a teacher, which one would you match this with?
Okay, that's fine.
So,
We do that.
okay,
Why are these trajectories helpful? Why are they important? It helps you figure out where kids are at, but it also helps you figure out where kids can be going, should be going, might be going next.
well, just that the idea that the reason why you start from like walking them through the guide is that they can see the connection between the instruction to the kids' work. You would see this, you would see all of this possibly in a classroom, right? So meaning like if you read the Teach for Understanding, and if you looked at the guide the way it is, it does give you like, you could have a counter +1. You know, like, you know how I'm talking about how it says there, it gives you a summary. So in that week and doing those activities, you could see this range of children doing this kind of thing. This is what it would look like.
Right.
So that when they're watching the kids do this, then they kind of, again, not like they have to actually be, but that, because then if they know where they are generally trajectory wise in week 1, then when they get to week 5.
Yeah, well, you'll know where they're heading, further down the road. with all of this.
Yep.
Exactly.
Okay, cool. All right. And then do you have a
That will
reflection?
be fine. I do not, but I will make one right now. Hang on. Just
get it
let
from the
me,
last.
Yeah, I'm gonna copy it. Yeah, hold on.
But
My
can you just
internet
copy
doesn't-
the slide and then will it still be a live link?
Yeah, but I've got to make a new form though, or else everything will get kind of glommed into the old form for
Can't
the
you
last
just-
PD. We won't
Right.
be able to tell what responses are for what date. So hold on, let me just get a new form.
Okay, how many more minutes do they have in here? You better bring them back
4.
now.
4 minutes. Hold on, I can't bring them back now because I am getting the reflection sheet. Just give me at least one more minute here.
Mommy gonna be done soon and then I'll take you for a walk.
Walkies. It's time for walkies.
Up, up, up.
Okay, how do I do this? Make a copy. That's right.
I'm telling you, these
maybe-
animals, I gotta drug this one up. Get like, I don't know. I must have given her like a smaller dosage because she's up and about.
Well, you gotta give the other one a cup of coffee.
The other one's still.
Caffeination.
How is this possible? She's the chunkier one. Ooh. All right.
Chunky.
Come on. Oh, you gotta
Hold on a
go. You gotta go over there. Please,
Hang on.
please.
What am I trying to do? Settings. That's what I need to do. Responses.
Please go away.
No. Okay, that should be fine. I send this. Oh, Jesus. Hold on. Copy. All right, where's the slideshow? Let me throw this into the slideshow. Do you have the
You know what?
reflection
No. You don't
slide?
even have to put it in the slide. You just have to put it in the chat.
Okay. All right.
Okay, give them the 1 minute warning. We're coming back.
We are crash landing.
No, come back now, people, because it's about to end. It's about to end. I'm on dog alarm clock here.
All right, hold it. I'm gonna close the room. Close the rooms. We have 60 seconds
Oh,
until. Oh gosh, look at that walrus that you've got next to you. Look at the jowls. I like the jowls there.
no, you know what the thing is too that makes her look really like vicious is that her eyes are set apart farther than like a Labrador's. So she's like a maniac. This is not Pete the cat.
So welcome back. We have a new participant joining us
I
here.
know. I can't do PD at home anymore. It's like
Our canine companion.
you know, I feel like these should be the class pets. They really, I mean, forget your hamsters. This is talk about learn some responsibility, kids. Be responsible for something this large.
Having to put up with an animal like that.
I'm gonna share a screen so nobody has to see all this. Yeah.
All right, and we're back.
Boop, 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 boop.
So we pulled you back just a few minutes earlier than we were originally intending to because we were looking at the clock and realizing that we are sort of crash landing just about at the
As
end
usual.
of our time together here. Yeah, as usual, right?
Always well.
So, pardon me.
So typically we would go group by group and kind of like answer the, kind of review these 5 spots of the teacher's guides. But first, just quick, I mean, did it seem pretty straightforward how the guides are organized, even though you all had different weeks? Yeah, I mean, that's the way they are organized across all of them.
Yeah,
So
did anybody?
Oh,
I
go
was just
ahead.
going to say, I mean, did anybody have any sort of a big noticing that they wanted to share out, or something that they thought was, particularly significant at all in what you saw?
Okay, so
I'm sorry, I was trying to unmute. So I do think that this was our very first time as a group even looking at any of this.
Yeah.
I think that it's great that we had a few minutes to look at it. Um, I, our our weakness, my weakness has been this has been on the back burner. This has not been on the forefront. So I think that this would be a good stopping point to, you know, jump off of for another building blocks training.
Most definitely, yes.
Yep.
Perfect.
So one of the things that y'all will find is that because each of the weeks follows this structure, you could be, I mean, obviously you can do like a very deep dive. One of the things that we do want to kind of signal you all to is that if we were sharing out, you would note it. Okay, so in building blocks, there are 3 big areas of math that they address: numeracy, geometry, and then data and measurement. Those 3 big buckets. So which of those were you all looking at?
We were looking at numeracy.
Yep. And so we're all of the groups looking at numeracy. You were all looking at, each of the groups was looking at a different week, but you were all looking at numeracy. Yeah, spoiler alert. But part of what sort of gets revealed, I guess, or what we want teachers to understand is that you're looking at numeracy and say week 1 and a week 7 and a week 11, because that's what follows the spiral structure of building blocks. You don't just, all right, we're going to look at numbers for, the first month of school. You're going to look at it weeks 1 through 3 is numeracy, and then weeks 4, 5, and 6 is geometry, weeks then the next chunk of weeks is going to be numeracy. And one of the things, we'll send you actually the actual structure of that. But what you'll find is that you'll almost see exactly this, almost very similar activities. The whole group might be this old man in week 1. In week 5 for numeracy, you may be looking at the very same poem or song, but there will be something different or more complicated by week 5, right? So it's similar to the way our multiple reads are. It's similar things, but it gets more complicated as you go on. And that's because it follows the spiral aspect of the trajectories.
So that's something as a coach that I would hear often with the OWL is it feels like I just did this.
Yes.
So I think that is good that you pointed that out, and we can definitely start remembering that for this math program, that it is going to be repeated and there's a reason why.
Yes. And so also as coaches, this will help you when you're doing it, because again, now you're not going to feel like, oh my God, now I got to learn the whole next unit's weeks of, you'll get into the similar rhythm of knowing, because it's almost the same structure. It is the same structure as the literacy component: spiral, complicate thinking, revisit, revise, etc. Right? So that's why walking through the guide like this with teachers helps them discover it. And then what is the whole reason why we want teachers to be able to understand the spiral is because you want them to connect it to what they actually see the kids doing in the classroom. So, hold on a second. We're on, I got to switch. Let me go to the next one. Didn't get updated in this one. So this is what we do. All right, that's fine. So this is what we do in PD and help them after they do that whole guide walk and they do exactly what we just did. We give them samples of kids' work. So over here on the left-hand side, there's going to be 7 pieces of children's work. We give them that. And then we give them slips of paper over here on the right-hand side of the trajectory of the geometry trajectory. And they have to match the trajectory to the work. So, okay, so let's just look at this. So G at the top of this page, right? Is, I made a triangle with these. Is this what we're looking at, Dave? Oh no, that's the next one. Sorry. Okay.
There you are.
So I made
Yes.
a triangle is what they're looking at. Kid did that. The other piece of work is these match, they're the same shape. These match, they're the same shape. Those are, and on the right-hand side are 3 possible trajectories that line up with that work. Just real quick. Anybody have an idea what A goes with? Is that child a shape matcher, a shape recognizer, or a constructor of shapes and parts?
Instructor.
Okay. What's the answer, Dave?
That's correct. Marissa wins.
Yay!
Gold star for that one.
Awesome.
That's exactly right.
I know,
Yeah.
at almost 4 o'clock in the afternoon.
Right.
So these 2 triangles match, they're the same shape. These match, they're the same shape. And also you can notice that the shapes are not lined up side by side exactly the same. One looks a little different than the other, or like is turned in a different direction. So who is that? Shape or matcher orientation or shape recognizer parts?
Match your orientation.
There you go. Perfect. So that's what how we help them again, because when you look at the trajectories in the back of the building blocks manual, it's like little writing and like appendix like looking. But this is the way we help them understand it actually, like with like what they would actually see in the classroom. So you'll be getting to train this, there are 7 pieces of work and then 7 trajectories that they literally have to sit in small groups, or they sit in small groups and they try to match it up. So, and then whoever wins gets a pizza. No, just kidding.
I do know that trajectory is a new word for us.
This way it makes it not so scary, like what? It just means kids, right? It's basically everything most people said. Different kids doing different things doesn't mean one's better than the other, but just like it's good for us to know. Is this a crayon capper or a marker capper kid, or a kid who, a marker licker? I'm not sure. You could say
Right.
it's
I mean,
the same way, right? So this
it really just helps you to understand or to assess where a child is in his or her understanding of a particular concept, whether it's the geometry or the number sense, etc. Not just understand where they are, but one of the beauties of the trajectories is that you are also able to sort of see the next step and the next step in terms of where the child will be or should be moving subsequently, right? So
yeah, because you can see all 7 of these pieces of work in week 4 when you're starting the geometry trajectory. So if you got all of this happening in week 4, what does that mean for when you revisit it again in week 12, right? So then you got to like kind of coordinate where the kids are or think about where they are there. It's kind of fun. So again, this is a way to help unpack it. So, and we also have one for number too, or a similar kind of game. And it's, I mean, I don't know how long I've been doing building blocks and I still don't recognize, I mean, I couldn't name them. I couldn't memorize them. One time we did mix up the key and PD ourselves. And we were like busily like going, oh, I think that is shape oriented.
Well, one of the things that you'll find about the trajectories is that they are incredibly detailed. I mean, it's not like a trajectory only has, 3 or 4 steps or stages to it. I mean, each trajectory has, 20, 25, sort of discrete levels or sort of stages, I mean, they're very, very, very precise, in terms of the mapping of the kids' developments, for each of these conceptual areas, the number sense, geometry, etc. So they provide a great deal of information in a great amount of detail.
So that brings us down. That's also to let you know that, or let teachers know that as much detail as that is, it's not like anybody needs to to memorize all of those, but to basically be able to just sort of ballpark where kids are, or to be able to just see if there's progression. Obviously, if you can play a game, it's always going to be a lot more, it's going to stick more with teachers. So that brings us to the end of our game, or the end of this inning. I'm kind of sad. This is our last big time together, friends. Not forever, I think. But this is the last time this group is going to be meeting. I know she's not really listening. She's like, when is dinner going to be served? But we are going to put, instead of in the slide deck, I think Dave has there in the chat box, or Dave's going to put in the chat box, our reflection sheet. And as always, once you get it, you can take it, fill it out, and you can either fill it out with us all here, or we'll hang out here for a few minutes, but that will help us. And then off you go into the van.
Yes, and Marissa, I will be cleaning up the recordings of all of our sections and getting those links to you. So please just hang in a little while longer, and I'll get that sorted ASAP.
And we will be also sending you some follow-up materials, including a more concrete version of the 7 forms of bias and of these training materials as well.
Wonderful. And I would like to stay on with you too, just for a brief moment, just to kind of prepare you for the email for trainings, upcoming training. Just it, nothing. I'm just giving you a heads up. Kind of like building blocks. This is what it's going to look like.
All right, sounds good. Sounds good. Well,
hey,
thank
Marissa,
you.
Before you guys hang up, Dave, can you put the Google slide link in the chat again?
Oh, sure. Yeah.
Thank you.
And if anyone loses it, I made a copy of it, and I do have a copy of all the slides. If you need anything, you can reach out to me, and I'll be glad to share it with you too.
Thank you, Marissa.
No, thank y'all.
Thank you guys. Always great seeing you.
I know the math part. I think
go ahead. Talk to us.
It just because I've had a little time to look at it, just a little bit, and so what I'm realizing is how important those trajectories are, and that is the main focus of. I keep hearing you say that word.
Yeah.
So I need to become more familiar with that. Okay.
Yeah. I mean, I think that the way to, again, it's definitely, again, if you, like, we saw Doug Clements in our last PD, and so you